Welcome, welcome, welcome to Gray Area Live number 26. I am Rex Jones and my co-host Tim Tompkins of the Gray Area. He's absent. He's over in Germany doing a business deal right now relating to some heavy machinery and some tariff BS. So he's out of town for today and for Tuesday. So I'll be holding down the fort. We got a great show. We got a whole bunch of exciting stuff to get into. It's really going to be a phenomenal breakdown. And I'm very excited to do an extended call-in portion since we don't have a guest. I'm going to try to talk to at least 7 or 8 people, at least 7 or 8 of you tonight once I give out the number. And whatever topics you have on your mind, I'd love to hear about them, but especially anything geopolitical, anything out of the United States of America, anything related to another country or another war that, I'm sure that we're involved in. But we're going to have a fun time tonight. We're going to get into all kinds of things. I have been over the past week, I've been very sick. I've been battling the norovirus. I've been having bad stuff come out of both ends to keep it PG. It hasn't been fun. It hasn't been good. So I'm a little depleted. I'm still not 100%, but I woke up this morning and I got out of bed and the sun was shining and the birds were chirping and I was like, I'm okay. I'm okay to do the 3 hour. I can hold down the fort. And it's very important for the health and longevity and growth of the Gray Area Talks show that we do these shows 3 times a week. Now, I'm not sure if it was last week or the week before, I missed like 2 or 3 days and it really impacted our viewership. I think it upset a few of our fans. I got a couple DMs from the listeners about it and really not trying to do that. So if we take a break or if there's kind of an abbreviation in the show or if one of us is not here, at least one of us will always try to hold down the fort here on the Gray Area. It's very important for the health of the show. So that being said, big show tonight, lots of topics to get into tonight. Something that, I've been following very, very closely is the ongoing preparations for war in Venezuela. And today I got the opportunity to catch 2 of my favorite shows, not top 2 favorite, but top 3 or top 4. Sadly, the Alex Jones show has kind of fallen in my rankings a little bit, but I got to catch his Sunday show from 4 to 6 p.m. Central Time, and I got to catch the first hour-ish of Due Dissidence, which really is my favorite show. That Fuentes, I think Due Dissidence ranks number 1, and then the Fuentes show ranks number 2. But when I catch the Alex Jones show, I usually don't catch it on the weekends. And the funny thing about it is, the typical show, Monday through Friday, it's a 3-hour, right? And Alex can get a lot done in the 3-hour. He can get a lot of topics covered. He can get a lot of news blitz covered, but often he kind of goes off on tangents or he gets wrapped up in collars and he doesn't really stay on target. I thought today's show was very good. And I was surprised at its quality, honestly, because I was expecting, just kind of a typical weekday show. But he broke it down. He laid it down. And one thing you got to understand about InfoWars, about Alex Jones, about his connections with the people, that actually know the stuff is he actually does have some pretty high level military connections and some people that he can talk to. And he's predicting imminently within the next 48 hours that the attack on Venezuela will be fully launched. Now, I've been calling this from day one. Tim has said it would happen next year. I've been predicting it would happen in December. I think I'm going to be proven correct, and I'm not flexing that. I'm not bragging about that. I'm not saying that as a good thing. It kind of looks inevitable at this point, right? And with that inevitability, we have to realize you voted for it, even if you thought you did, right? And this is what I've had to realize about Trump. Even though I voted to end the wars, even though I voted to release the Epstein files, even though I voted for lower taxes, less immigration, we're kind of getting the reverse of all those things. So it's kind of a fell for it again award situation. I admit it. That's okay. I'll take my fell for it again award, right? But we're going to get into it all tonight. I've got a gazillion tabs to go over. True News Blitz style show. I'll be reviewing it and showing it to all of you tonight. I want to hear your thoughts, your topics, your opinions, both on what I cover tonight and, what's rolling around in your mind when it comes to geopolitics and the ongoing situation. Because whether it's Venezuela, whether it's Taiwan, whether it's Russia, whether it's Ukraine, whether it's Africa, the world is at war. And even if we don't want to call it a world war, which I wouldn't at this point, it's certainly inching up to it. These are the conflagration of events that lead to a kind of global conflict, right? So we're going to be discussing all of that tonight, and especially our relationship with our allies, right? Because we look at a country like Venezuela, we make all these claims about them. They're bringing in all the fentanyl. They're influencing our elections, blah, 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 blah. And then we look at the EU and, they're our friends. They're wonderful, but they're literally throwing people in jail for, free speech, right? So I find it interesting that we're all about regime change and all these evil, bad places with all these evil, bad dictators, when it's very obvious the biggest dictatorship in the world, besides the American empire, I would argue, is, of course, the European empire, the EU, and something that Alex excellently brought up on the show and really did a deep dive into, talking about, King Edward and Hitler being friends and all this, and Hitler setting up the European Union. And after Hitler's fall, they still followed through with that program. And that's how we got that unelected bureaucracy that's still alive to this day. It's all very fascinating stuff, right? And a lot of people don't know it. And, usually when Alex pontificates or when Alex makes a point, it's something people know about, but not a lot of people know about the actual origins of the EU. We're going to get into that. We're going to get into Venezuela. We're going to get into forced Ukrainian conscription. We're going to get into Trump and the new developments there. We're going to get into all of it. So welcome to the gray area tonight. Flying solo, flying good, having a good time. I'm going to check in with the comments really quick and see what you guys have to say. And Alex Jones is Bill Hicks. Yeah, we hear this all the time. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to go ahead and present my screen. I'm going to go ahead and present my screen. I'm going to go ahead and present it now. Okay. Going to go ahead and add this to the stage. American investigative journalist Laura Logan announced today that Operation Southern Spear has begun, signaling a potential intensification of U.S. military efforts against Venezuelan dictator Nicolas Maduro's regime. According to Infobay, citing Reuters, U.S. forces conducted a major amphibious landing exercise this weekend in Ponce, Puerto Rico, the largest military reinforcement in the Caribbean in over 3 decades. More than 7,000 troops mobilized, supported by warships, B-52 strategic bombers, unmanned systems, that means drones, and special operations units, as Washington ramps up pressure on Maduro's narco-terrorist regime. The mission encompasses amphibious training, enhanced logistical positioning, and air power demonstrations near Venezuelan airspace. It forms a broader regional push to counter organized crime and emerging security threats. That's what they say. I don't buy that for a second. This is all about Maduro not signing on to a central bank. I mean, less than 1% of the fentanyl goes through Venezuela. The idea that we're striking these boats for anything other than a gross show of force is frankly laughable, and I do consider it to be a war crime. And this is something me and my father would vehemently disagree on, folks. That's number one. Oh, all right. Before we get into all this is white chocolate. All right. All right. Look, Tim's doing whiteface and he's gained a little weight. All right. So this is white chocolate. This is my good friend, William Widener. He's in a band called Anti-Sarah. You should check them out. He's a cool dude. He's just doing some schoolwork right now for college, but he's joining me in studio because, it gets a little lonely all by your lonesome doing a show. And I really enjoy and love having Tim as my co-host. And it's a little hard to do a solo show, ladies and gentlemen. So we've got someone else in seat number 2. He might chime in from time to time if he's got a funny anecdote. Please keep it PG-13. Okay. No R-rated, no N-rated or anything of that sort. Okay.
Yeah, this white chocolate's going to stay semi-sweet. You know what I mean?
All right. He's going to stay semi-sweet, ladies and gentlemen. But basically, all right, I'm going to keep breaking down this article here. The USS Gerald R. Ford Aircraft Carrier Strike Group departed St. Thomas in the U.S. Virgin Islands, heading back to the Caribbean for active operations under Southern Spear, per flight tracking data and U.S. Southern Command reports. This follows over 20 U.S. airstrikes on suspected drug vessels since August, resulting in at least 80 deaths and the FAA's extension of restricted airspace over Puerto Rico through March 2026 due to heightened military activity. Tensions remain elevated, with Maduro condemning the moves as imperialist aggression. I would agree. And I'm not saying Maduro's a good guy. I think Maduro's a bad guy. But hey, how many times have we done this? How many times have we got into a country like Saddam Hussein, like Gaddafi, like Assad, and we've said, oh, this is the dictator. This is the worst person on the planet. They must be overthrown so American democracy can reign. And then we turn the place literally into a Fallujah-style hellhole every time we do it, right? We look at it, the al-Qaeda leader running everything in Syria. We want the Machado lady, the Nobel Peace Prize winner, to be the new ruler of Venezuela. And that's precisely because she's going to sign up to the central bank and the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, and it'll be a part of the globalist Borg. They don't want Venezuela, a very oil-rich and resource-rich country, even though it's poor and really underpopulated. They don't want that country to ever be successful or ever be independent. And that's what this all comes down to, folks. So go ahead and go to tab number 2 here. Okay, it's the same tab. Opened it twice. Oh, this is what I wanted to show you guys. So this is how they bait out the boomer, ladies and gentlemen. And I've played Jesse Waters many, many times before on this show, right? I played him many, many times on this show. The way he's able to warmonger and antagonize and make death and violence and murder sound cool is frankly unmatched. No one else can do it like him. It's very interesting. Tucker Carlson, you can disagree with him on a number of things. He is principled in his anti-war stance. And of course, when he leaves Fox, when he's forced to leave Fox because of his anti-Ukrainian position, who do they replace him with? The biggest warmonger possible. And I would describe Jesse Waters as that. So let's go ahead and watch this clip.
We've been interdicting these ships for 4 decades as it hasn't worked.
I know.
We've been having Coast Guard cutters go off into the Caribbean and Pacific and capture these boats. And do these guys ever sing to who's the boss? No, they don't do anything. And then we send them back or we lock them up and they escape.
Don't you remember Miami Vice?
We have to do something different. The argument the Democrats are making is we have to do the same thing we've been doing since 1980, which is treat this as a police action. And it hasn't worked. So now we're taking the fight to the enemy, and we can already tell it's working because Maduro's scared. He might leave to the Middle East. Mexico's shaking in their boots. They know that they could be next. And the Colombian guy's like on his last leg. So I like the policy, and it's not a controversial policy. Mark, Thiessen, Dana? He did an interview today with the acting director of the Defense Intelligence Agency under Barack Hussein Obama. For 5 years, this guy was calling all the shots. This is what he said. At the heart of it, we use double taps all the time. I mean, some of them probably were injured, yet you hit him again.
Okay. So let's break down. Number one, everything he's saying here is a complete fabrication and lie. You're not allowed to kill injured combatants. And you can look at examples in World War II, right? The Japanese were notorious for when an American ship had sunk and the sailors were on top of the water trying to stay alive, the Japanese would mow down our troops, right? So American soldiers started doing the same thing in kind. And that's why we had the Geneva Convention and then the addendum to the Geneva Convention, rendering that highly illegal and, in fact, a war crime. You can call it police action. You can call it whatever you want. You're not allowed to kill people without due process and certainly without a declaration of war. It's very, very key. But people like Jesse Watters don't want you to know that.
And it was something that had bipartisan support on Capitol Hill. How about this? Dan Crenshaw. I can't recall any time in my history of doing counterterrorism ops where we strike a group, whether it's a building or a boat or a vehicle, and then we were like, oh, there's survivors. We have to go. We can't kill them. Of course we killed them. This is not even.
All right. Jesse Watters literally just said, of course we kill the survivors. And then he used Eye Patch McCain, Crenshaw, as an example of why it's good. Now, we have this culture in the U.S., especially this military culture of the macho alpha male going over and rescuing the world. And I think that's been proven to be false. We're murderers, we're killers, we're war criminals, and all theaters of war we engage in, really. I mean, this has been proven. And Jesse Watters cites this former murderer as an example of why murder is good.
A debatable issue. If these guys are radioing the cartel and are climbing back, not injured, into the boat and about to pick up the dope and send it back to another boat.
Okay, so we've all seen the drone strike footage of the boats getting hit, and I actually don't have any of that today just because we played it so many times. You've all seen it happen over and over and over again. The idea that you have this complete wreckage, right? You have this completely destroyed boat, and then they're swimming around the water, probably on boards or something, trying to collect the fentanyl or cocaine or whatever it is, so they can then go, like, I guess like Michael Phelps, swim it 1,000 miles to another boat or something, or 10 miles or whatever figure. It's just on its face flatly insane. This is not how the world works. This is not how combat works. And he knows this. He knows this, but he doesn't care. And he's decided that he's a part of the American empire. He's decided that he's an access journalist, and he's decided might makes right. And hey, if we got the attack ships and the attack squadrons and the attack helicopters that zoom in and zoom out, and he hypes it up in so many different ways. There's so many different clips of Jesse Watters doing this. He's decided that that makes it okay. As long as it's cool, it's okay. As long as he can make like a funny joke about it, which I'll get into. I got more clips of Watters making jokes about these people. As long as he can make a joke about it and make light about it and bait out the boomer to have that kind of like false American pride, that makes it okay.
Then the boat's still operational and the coke is still there, and it's a deadly poison.
Okay. So that's just on its face not true. Ladies and gentlemen, it's just on its face not true. It's called hors de combat. They're out of combat. They're injured. They're wounded. They can't do anything. And instead of questioning them or interrogating them, we kill them? No. You're supposed to take those people captive and gather intelligence if you're actually trying to interdict drugs and stop a drug operation. But we just kill people left and right because we can. And the Fox News people hype it up and say that it's great. I got another Jesse Watters clip. Let's watch this full report and just really get into this, guys.
Fox News alert, it is Judgment Day. Sources say Maduro's been praying to Jesus. That's the narco-terrorist, socialist dictator who took over for Hugo Chavez in Venezuela and keeps flooding American streets with migrants, gangs, and cocaine. 11 U.S. warships, including our largest carrier, the USS Gerald R. Ford, are now in the Caribbean. Venezuela is surrounded. The strike group is waiting on orders from the commander-in-chief as the president's holding high-level meetings at the White House, calculating our next move against the narco state. The choice is Maduro's. Trump's giving him an ultimatum: abdicate power or else. After Trump's phone call with the dictator, that's the best offer.
The New York Times reported that you had a phone call with Maduro. Did you?
I don't want to comment on it. The answer is yes.
And can you tell us a little bit
No,
about
I can't
it?
do that.
Mr. President, would you say it went well?
I would say it went well or badly. It was a phone call.
This time, it wasn't a perfect phone call. The Venezuelan strongman reportedly asked for global amnesty. And Trump said, how about no? Then he said, what if I hold free and fair elections? Trump said, no, you already did that and you lost. Then he asked, if I step down, can I still control the military? 47 said, pack your bags. Even with a $50 million bounty on his head, Maduro's maintained an iron grip on power by bribing his cronies with kickbacks from the coke, oil, and gold rackets. But this time, the narcos aren't calling shots anymore. Uncle Sam is, a.k.a. Trump. And the president's tightening the noose.
Okay, so Trump is Uncle Sam and he's tightening the noose, and Maduro must abdicate, or we're going to go to total war and go in there and kill him with Navy SEALs and Green Berets and all this stuff. See how cool he makes it sound? See how it's not even a question of our authority or our ability to do this. This is just what we're going to do because we're correct, right? And, you know, my politics growing up, InfoWars before Trump was very different. InfoWars was extremely anti-establishment. InfoWars was extremely independent. InfoWars was extremely anti-war. And InfoWars was extremely anti-government overreach. But what we see more and more and more because of Trump and the cult of personality around Trump and the justification of him being cool and him being Uncle Sam and him being the badass commander-in-chief is that, hey, as long as he says it's cool and as long as he says it's okay and as long as he makes the statement, I mean, we just have to do it, right? Because he's our leader. And that's the antithesis of everything I was taught. I was taught to question authority. I was taught to question our leaders. I was taught to follow the law and really be anti-war. But we just see justification over and over and over again. And I'm just sick of it.
In the last 24 hours, Trump declared the airspace above Venezuela entirely closed. Closing airspace can only mean one thing. This is escalating, and it's escalating quickly. The commander-in-chief isn't going to ratchet up the pressure, then walk away without a win. There's no way Maduro can face down the full force of a U.S. carrier strike group. The president is keeping his options open.
What's the position on whether U.S. troops on the ground is a possibility there? Is that, I know you've answered that before, but what's the current operative?
In Venezuela? I think my previous answer stands. There's many options at the president's disposal that are on the table.
Maduro's a sitting duck, and word on the street is he'll be out of power before Christmas. No one's bailing the socialist out. He's getting no love from his sponsors in Beijing and Moscow. Putin and Xi Jinping are at the table with Trump doing much bigger trade and diplomatic deals. They're not going to throw Maduro a lifeline and jeopardize the deals over a small fry in our backyard. And we're doing the Europeans a big favor. Venezuelan gangs have been trafficking boatloads of coke to West Africa. And
okay, you can look up the drug statistics. All the drugs that come from Colombia, they come from Mexico, they come from countries like Ecuador. They don't come from Venezuela. Very few drugs come from Venezuela. And like, I'm sorry, this is the antithesis of what you're going to hear on the Alex Jones show or on InfoWars, where they're going to justify it and they're going to say that they're the ones that influence our elections and they're the great evil and they supply all the drugs and this, that, and the other things. I just don't believe it. I just don't believe it because the motive for what we're doing here is very clear. Everything he's saying, everything he's laying out here is complete and total bullshit. What we want is we want that Machado lady, the Nobel Peace Prize winner, we want her installed because she's already agreed and said that she's going to sign on to the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, and the World Bank. That's what this entire war is about. And I've talked to Venezuelans, I've talked to active duty soldiers and people in the military, and they've both told me the same thing. They both told me that that's what this is about. They all understand this. They all know this. But ultimately, the machine is too big to be stopped. We're going in there, folks. And if I had to make a prediction, I would say the next week we're going to be in there. My dad on the show, and I believe him. I think he's right. I think his sources are good. He says we're going to go in there tomorrow and that they'd probably be doing like an 8 a.m. broadcast and something might happen. And, you know, I'll be up early tomorrow morning checking the news because that's what's going to happen, in my opinion.
the Africans have been pouring it into France and Germany. Maduro's isolated. According to UN investigators, he's guilty of crimes against humanity, torture, murder, sexual violence. He only got 20.
Are we not guilty of crimes against humanity? Is the United States not guilty of torture and sexual violence? I think we are.
20% of the vote last year.
The
Stole
hypocrisy.
the election and wouldn't leave. And he's unleashed migrants, gangs, and poison onto our shores.
So he's unleashed migrants, gangs, and poison onto our shores. You know, I had a very interesting conversation with a Venezuelan. He kind of broke this down for me. He goes, look, Venezuela, small country of 30 million people. The people that left after Maduro came to power, because Maduro is not a good guy, and I'm not saying he's a good guy. I'm not a supporter of Maduro in any way. The people that left Venezuela were the doctors, were the lawyers, were the business people, the people with money, the people that could afford to get out. And the people left in Venezuela were that lower underclass, right? And the reason why they kind of support Maduro is because Maduro has given them money. Not saying that it's a good state. I'm laying it out right here. It is a corrupt state. But when have we ever fixed anything for the better in any theater since, like, I'm not even going to argue World War II.
Chuck Schumer's backed military action in Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Libya, Yemen, and Ukraine. Schumer's basically down for whatever, whenever, no questions asked. But now that Trump's the president, he has questions.
Americans are right to wonder, what on earth is Donald Trump planning in Venezuela? Is Donald Trump nudging America into another war? Is he seeking regime change for Maduro? Will he put U.S. troops in harm's way? Nobody knows.
There's no way Trump's telling Schumer anything.
Okay, well, let's talk about that. There's no way that Trump's telling Schumer anything. All right, I hate Chucky Schumer. Chucky Schumer is evil. Chucky Schumer doesn't know how to cook a hamburger. Chucky Schumer supports open borders and supports endless war and supports the war in Ukraine. I'm not a fan of Chuck Schumer. But when it comes to war, the 1973 War Powers Act is very clear. Only Congress has the ability to declare war. And what we're seeing here is a complete disconnect and abandonment and really scoffing in the face of that concept. This is the end stage of what the Bushes and of what the Obamas and even what the Bidens have brought us to. Now the president can unilaterally declare war on anyone he wants, and the media will justify it, and Congress is too impotent to do anything about it. Ultimately, it comes down to one thing. Did you vote for this? Because I didn't vote for this. I voted for Donald Trump twice. I voted for Trump in 2020, where he lost, or won, but he lost. And then I voted for him in 2024 when he won again, right? So when I voted for Trump in 2024, I didn't vote for no war in Venezuela. I didn't vote for no continuation of war in Ukraine. I didn't vote for no genocide in Gaza, but I got all of those things. And I'm still supposed to support him. I'm still supposed to say that this is our fearless, great leader who can do no wrong. I mean, at one point, I truly believed that. But as we've seen, been made perfectly clear, it's all about war. It's all about violence. That's what he supports. That's what his agenda is. And the great irony of coming in saying that you're the great peacemaker and that you can solve the Ukraine-Russia conflict in a single night without even being president. The irony of saying that you deserve the Nobel Peace Prize more than anyone and you've stopped 8 wars, when the death tolls in multiple theaters across multiple continents, multiple hemispheres just keep on blowing up and engaging and growing and just really swelling up over time. The irony of still saying that you're the peace president, just come out and say that you support war, death, murder, and that it's good. Just that's all you have to do, and at least you're being honest there, right? Well, I know y'all didn't vote for this. I didn't vote for it, like I just said. It's what we're getting. And ultimately, there's nowhere you could go to vote against this, because I'm sure if the Democrats were in power, they'd be doing the same exact thing. And that right there is my point, ladies and gentlemen. That's my point to all the viewers and listeners out there. There's nowhere you can go to vote against this. And there's nothing worse than someone lying to you and saying that they're the peace option and that if you vote for them, they'll stop the stuff from happening. And then they go on and continue to do it even worse. I mean, here's the thing. The Democrats are pretty open about what they want. And you know what? There's some honor and nobility in that, even though it's evil, even though I can't stand them, even though they're disgusting. They're honest about what they want to do. The Republicans, they are down dirty liars, folks. They're down dirty liars. And that's what I can't stand.
Might as well tell Maduro. Schumer's old enough to know the war on drugs has been a 4-decade failure. And he knows that Trump didn't storm back into the White House just to repeat the failures of past presidents. The Secretary of the Navy gets it.
Drugs kill more Americans than we've ever lost in wars. So I think at the end of the day, the president has correctly identified this as an attack on the country, which it is.
The narco traffickers are on deliver or die missions. They're ferrying cargo through the Pacific and the Gulf of America. Some of these speedboats are 40 feet long and carry $70 million of contraband. Taking out these boats hit the cartels where it hurts, their bank accounts, and forcing out.
We've never been shown any proof of any of this. We've never been shown anything that's on the boats. We've never been shown any of the people that are on the boats. We just kill the people that are on the boats and say that they're bad. And that's enough of a justification. I demand proof. If you're actually killing the people that are bringing in the drugs and you actually are stopping the drugs from being delivered, why don't you show us proof? You know, a cop, if they pull someone over and they find like a weed pipe and they find like an ounce on them, they'll lay it out on a table and like all pose around it like they're cool and show what they did. I haven't seen any of that. I haven't seen any evidence for this at all.
Maduro sends a powerful signal to the Colombians, the Mexicans, and the Chinese. The Monroe Doctrine's back, and American deterrence is back. Venezuela is a launching pad for coke, and they're getting squeezed. The CIA is already on the ground there and have been authorized to give the president options. Operation Southern Spear is designed to defend the American homeland from drug warfare. And guess who has a problem with that?
If you want to understand if those are drug boats, who would go on those boats, it's people who have families that have been kidnapped. And they're told, go on the boats or we will execute your children.
Where's he getting this from? Coke boats aren't being driven by hostages. The Wall Street Journal reports each boat is manned by 3 to 4 well-paid professionals, a pilot, a mechanic, a navigator, and a voucher man, you know, someone who's trusted by the buyer and the seller. Now, someone's trying to sabotage U.S. operations, and the saboteurs are coming from within our own country. Over the weekend, the Washington Post accused the Secretary of War of committing war crimes. Hegseth order on first Caribbean boat strike, officials say, kill them all. The story goes something like this. U.S. Southern Command launched an airstrike against a coke boat. They saw that there were survivors and launched a second strike. So there were none.
Yeah, you're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to do that. Why didn't you take those people in and collect intelligence? Why didn't you take those people in and collect data? Why didn't you take those people in and arrest them? Simply put, they don't have the justification for what they're doing. They can't prove what they're doing. So they're just killing people left and right. It's American imperialism. It's American aggression. And in my opinion, it should not stand. And it's the absolute antithesis of what we voted for. And why am I saying this over and over and over again? Because he's proving the Democrats right. And that's the last thing I voted for. I know that to be the case. He's proven the Democrats right. When he plays that Morning Joe video, Morning Joe is also wrong, but Morning Joe is more right than Jesse Waters, and I hate that. That shouldn't be the case, right?
Pete calls it fake news. Quote, our current operations in the Caribbean are lawful under both U.S. and international law, with all actions in compliance with the law of armed conflict, and approved by the best military and civilian lawyers up and down the chain of command. Here's the White House.
Does the administration deny that that second strike happened, or did it happen and the administration denies that Secretary Hegseth gave the order?
Secretary Hegseth authorized Admiral Bradley to conduct these kinetic strikes. Admiral Bradley worked well within his authority and the law.
Lethal operations like this go through layers of lawyers. From the War Department, state, national security, everything goes up and down the chain of command and gets signed off on because we value life in America.
That's hilarious. He just said we value life in America. Will, do we value life in America? Do you think we value life in America? You think we're loving?
Depends. It depends on who I'm loving, you know. If it's like roly-polies. I love roly-polies.
Okay.
Yeah.
The United States has conducted strikes all over the globe like this for decades. But for some reason, when President Trump does it, it's a crime.
What law is it that allows no survivors?
The strike conducted on September 2nd was conducted in self-defense to protect Americans in vital United States.
Oh, it's self-defense when we launch a Hellfire missile at you. You see, it's self-defense. That's what she just said. It's self-defense when we nuke you from the air.
Yeah, Second Amendment.
That's right. Second Amendment. That's the key. It's the Second Amendment. That's the justification. Look, it was wrong when Obama did it. It was wrong when Bush did it. It was wrong when Biden did it. And it's wrong when Trump does it. It's all wrong. And that goes to the point of there's nowhere you can go to vote against this type of stuff, right? There's nowhere you can go. And here's the thing. Fentanyl, they talk about the fentanyl and they talk about it killing hundreds of thousands of Americans a year. And they use that as a justification of, okay, we have to go to war with Venezuela because they have the fentanyl. They don't have any of the fentanyl. They have less than 1% of the fentanyl. You can ask ChatGPT about that. You can look it up in Google and just find the statistics right there. The fentanyl doesn't come from there. Number two, how much fentanyl do you have to get into the country? If 1 grain of it is enough to kill 10 people, wouldn't you just need like a single brick, right? Like forever, but they have to keep bringing it in over and over and over again. It doesn't make sense on its face. It makes zero sense on its face. Now, this is how it should be done. And this is something that I support. Let's watch this. See, there's no nukes being dropped from the air. There's no war crime being committed. They're arresting the people. They're seizing the contraband. They're taking the substances. I'm not saying drug trafficking doesn't happen. This is how interdiction is supposed to work. I'm against this. I support this action, right? Because this action itself is not a war crime. It's very simple stuff. This is how it should be done. So it's really not that hard. It's really not that hard to make the calculation here about what's right and what's wrong. This is right, and then the drone strike or missile strikes are wrong. That's what I believe. Now, let's look at all the forces that we have built up in the region. I believe it's almost 20% of our entire Navy that we have out there now. You don't just do this for a show of force. We're going to go in there. We're going to invade imminently. We've got the Gerald R. Ford Carrier Strike Group. We've got the Gerald R. Ford. We've got 3 support ships. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 aircraft. We've got the Tomahawk Strike Package. I mean, just look at this. Look at this. This is outrageous. I didn't vote for this. And you realize how expensive this is. They're burning hundreds of millions to do this weekly. And I guess money's no object, right? Because we can print more of it. It's a grotesque horror show, folks. And then we got the people landing in Puerto Rico. We got the 7,000 troops getting ready to invade. Isn't that nice? Isn't that what we voted for? Fell for it again award. Ain't that something nice?
Chavista, entrenado bajo el método táctico de resistencia revolucionaria en perfecta función popular militar policial. Sepa usted, mi mayor general, que estos combatientes, estos hombres y mujeres que hoy nos encontramos en formación, le demostraremos al país, le demostraremos al mundo entero que Venezuela se respeta. Venezuela tiene una fuerza armada junto al pueblo, fusionada, adiestrada, entrenada, moralizada.
Now, of course they're going to lose. Of course we're going to win if we go in there. They got 30 million people. We have the biggest military in the world. They have nothing compared to what we have. But American soldiers will die in these engagements. And I guess the justification is the fentanyl that doesn't exist. So at the end of the day, do you want your sons, do you want your daughters to go fight these people? Hell no. Hell no. And why would you, right? Why would you? Now, massive blackouts are being reported across multiple states in Venezuela. This is breaking. This is in the past 3 hours. This is what you do when you get ready to go to war. So we're about to enter this. Are you pro-war, Will? Tell me about your views on war. Lean into the microphone.
War bad.
That's right. War bad. It's very simple, right? But our politicians believe war, any war, is good because they're all invested in the defense companies. They all get kickbacks from the defense companies. And it's all about regime change. It's all about building the world that they want at the expense of other people's lives. And what does this do but make everyone else in the entire planet hate us? That's all this does, folks. That's all this does. All right. That's the next topic I have to get into. So I'm going to cut back to myself. I'm sorry. I'm a little sick still. I'm finding that I'm not able to string together my words or make the points that I'm trying to make because I'm still just a little bit under the weather. My point is, look, my ethos as being a pro-American person is being anti-war solely from the point of we are supposed to be the moral nation. We are supposed to be the nation that exports democracy, that exports liberty, that exports peace, that exports freedom. And all we see is that we export violence and death and destruction. And, you know, it's a very twisted world when we do that because we're seen as the arbiters of what's right or wrong. And then other countries go, okay, you do this, we're going to do it. So the justification for violence is never there. It's only there when you yourself are attacked. And we're not being attacked right now by Venezuela. We are being attacked by the cartels. We are being attacked by the drug people. We are being attacked by those folks. I'm not disagreeing with that. But, you know, Trump goes and hangs out with the Jewish president of Mexico at the FIFA World Cup. And where are most of the drugs coming from? Mexico. Where are the massive protests against Scheinbaum coming from? Mexico. Where are the cartels located? Mexico. That's where the drugs are coming from. That's where the fentanyl is actually synthesized. But Venezuela, because they won't sign up to the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, because they won't get in debt like that, they are the enemy. It's never about what they say it's about, folks. It's always about the exact opposite. And you have to look into it, and you have to look into the cause and effect. You have to do the second, third, fourth order thinking and actually realize what's happening for real. So covering Venezuela, I just wanted to get into that for a little bit. I wanted to pontificate on it a little bit and just give y'all a refresher. I know that you're politically aware and awake. I know you're following what's going on. We're going to war with them, whether you like it or not, whether you voted against it or for it or not, which most of us voted against it. That's why we voted for Trump. He called himself the peace president. He lied about that, and we're going to go fight them. This is what's going to happen. So it's just up to us to be cognizant and aware of that and to realize that no matter who you vote for, you can't vote against it. Now, we look at the Venezuelan situation, and it's bad. It's terrible. I'm very against it. I'm against the deployment of American military power for no reason. That's bad enough. But when we get to the people that are our allies, the people that we support, it's even worse. And we're going to get into the EU. We're going to get into censorship, and we're going to get into Ukraine right now. But I'm going to read the comments. I'm going to see what you guys have to say, and then I'm going to get back to the feed. You opening the phones tonight? Yeah, we're going to open the phones in about 30 minutes. I'm really feeling pretty bad. So I need y'all's help to get through this 3-hour broadcast tonight. New Groiper says, yes, I want children to fight for us. I mean, America. Yeah, that's right. Is white chocolate a Groiper? Are you a Groiper?
I'm a gripper.
Oh. Uh-oh. You also got digital ID. Hit the like button. Yeah, and a 50-foot boat. Yeah, these tiny little boats with like 3 outboard motors that are like very far from the United States. It's just, it's on its face. It's just not true. Like at worst, they're going to Trinidad with the drugs, right? And why wouldn't you just interdict and stop them like that video I just played of them doing that exact thing? They're capable of doing it. We have all our military in that region. We're hitting them as a show of force, as a show of destructive power to show that we can do it, right? I think the argument is that Maduro runs the cartel, that runs the Mexican cartels, cut off the head of the Hydra. That's not true. That's objective. That's not true. And this is what we hear people say in the government as justification. Marco Rubio, who Miriam Adelson wanted to be VP, and Trump knew if he made him VP, he'd get killed and Rubio would be made president. That's why J.D. Vance is VP. And everyone knows that, of course. Marco Rubio is one of those people that left Cuba actually before Castro took power. He left Cuba during the prior regime, and he wants to rule that entire region, right? So that's what this is about. Rubio's pushing for this. It's his mission to do this. At least our missiles are made in America. Yeah, they're one of the only things we make in America anymore, right? But I want to get into the EU now real quick.
Európai vezetők eldöntötték, hogy Európa háborúba megy. Erről döntés van. Nem lehet, meg esetleg, meg ha elment az eszük, ez már megtörtént. Ott ülök köztük. Döntés van. Le is írták, sőt el is mondják. Hát van az a hivatalos Európai Uniós álláspont, hogy 2030-ra az Európai Uniónak készen kell állnia a háborúra. Egy Oroszországgal megvívandó háborúra. Hát hadigazdaságot építenek. Hadigazdaságot nem építenek 2 hónapra.
All right. So we're fighting a war in Venezuela. We're fighting a proxy war in Ukraine with the EU, backing them, selling them weapons, even if Trump is saying that he wants to back out. And we're fighting a war in the Middle East. We're backing Israel. We're backing their takeover of Syria. We're backing their takeover of Gaza. We're backing their takeover of a bunch of different things, right? We're fighting a war on 3 fronts. And when you look at America, the bloated, decrepit empire that it is, at least we do still have military power and action. At least we could, in theory, even if it's evil and wrong, at least we could actually win. The European Union literally has nothing. They have no military. They have no armies. They have no weapons. A few of the states have limited nuclear weapons. France has some. The UK has some. But by and large, they're deindustrialized. They've been taken over by third world populations. They don't have the means to fight an armed conflict. They don't have the means to fight a war, but they are going to back this and push it to the hilt, and they're going to make it happen. Now, who has hurt the EU? Who has hurt Europe more? The Russians or the Americans? Who blew up Nord Stream 2? Well, of course, the Ukrainians blew up Nord Stream 2. And by the Ukrainians, I mean us, folks. And that's why Germany now has to buy our oil and our LNG at triple the prices they were paying before. Now, are we the enemy? Are we the bad people? No, Russia is the enemy. Russia is bad. Russia must be crushed. Now, how does that make any sense? You could make all kinds of arguments that don't really make sense, as the European Union leaders do, like Ursula von der Leyen, and we're going to get into it. The facts on the ground are they don't even have the means to carry out any sort of military action against Russia. The second best military in Europe or in Eurasia is the Ukrainian military. And that's because they're battle tested. They fought the Russians for 4 years. Even though they're losing, even though they're about to give out, they are the most capable fighting force in Europe. You look at all these other countries, they are complete jokes. But what do? They warmonger. They have the rhetoric. They want blood. They're out for blood, ladies and gentlemen. They are out for blood. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the next clip. This just happened, guys. This just happened. Russian forces targeted 7 Ukrainian regions overnight into Sunday with over 240 drones and 5 ballistic missiles, killing at least 2 civilians and damaging homes, rail lines, and power grids. Zelensky reported this week's attacks included 1,600 drones, 1,200 guided bombs, and nearly 70 missiles, causing outages up to 16 hours in areas like Kremenchuk. Amid the strikes, U.S. and Ukrainian officials held constructive talks in Miami and by phone, discussing security, deterrence, and post-war rebuilding, with all sides stressing Russia's need for de-escalation. Isn't that cute? Zelensky called for faster air defenses while expressing hope for progress, as U.S. Ambassador Whitaker noted negotiators are closer to peace than ever. Now, why does this not make sense? We don't have the weapons to give them, number one. So when Zelensky asked for the air defenses, we've already given all our air defense weapons to Israel. And the few Patriot systems that still remain in Europe that have been sent to Zelensky, we don't have the means to replenish the munitions. The Russians make as many missiles in 2 months as we make in an entire year, and not just the U.S., the entirety of NATO. When you look at it from a pure munitions perspective, it's not feasible. They literally cannot win. They cannot win the fight, but we are told that it must go on. Here's Zelensky.
Almost every day and every night, our emergency services deal with the aftermath of Russian strikes on peaceful Ukrainian cities and communities. This week alone, Russia launched over 1,600 attack drones, around 1,200 guided aerial bombs, and nearly 70 missiles of various types against Ukraine. The primary targets of these strikes are infrastructure to keep everyday life going. There was another attack a day as well, more than 240 drones and 5 ballistic missiles, causing damage in 7 regions. Tragically, people were killed in Slovansky in the Cherniv region. My condolences to the families and loved ones. We continue working with our partners to ensure that the response to these attacks, our defenses grow stronger. With what?
With what? With what weapons? We're not sending you weapons anymore. The EU can't even afford to buy the weapons for you. There are no munitions for you. You need to surrender and give up. You need to give up Donetsk, Luhansk, and Kherson, but they won't do that. And that's why they're going to lose nearly their entire country. Keep in mind, there was a peace deal on the table in 2022 in March, a month after the war started. Zelensky went to Istanbul. Zelensky met with the Russian delegation, and they said, look, here's what we want. We want Donetsk, Luhansk, and Kherson, the Donbass region. We want them to be independent. We want them to be able to vote. We want them to be able to speak Russian, go to court in Russian, be able to speak to police in Russian, be able to not be discriminated against, basically. And what did Zelensky say to that? He said yes. But then Boris Johnson, the ex-PM of the UK, flew to Ukraine, promised Zelensky that the EU and America, without our permission, would back him to the hilt, and that's why they went full and total war. This all could have stopped. And we'll get into casualty numbers later. I have some statistics on this. It's between 300, 500,000 to 1 million Ukrainian troops have died. And they claim that's not true. They claim they've only lost like 100,000 or so. That's on its face a bold-faced lie just based on the length of the conflict, the weapons used in the conflict. We know that's not true. We look at the Ukrainian-Russian prisoner exchanges where the ratio is 50-1, talking about, or not prisoner, dead body exchanges. They'll turn in like 1,000 dead Ukrainians. They'll get like a few dozen dead Russians. These are just the facts on the ground. But you know what? I got a bunch to get into. I want to be able to reframe my mind. I'm still pretty sick, guys. I apologize. Let me go ahead and open up the phone lines and get ready to have some fun conversations with y'all. So, New Groiper, I know you're listening. Go ahead and call in, and I'll add you to the call. But I'm going to go ahead and throw up the call-in banner now so y'all can join the show. Please call in. Yep. All right. We're about to be joined by New Groiper, ladies and gentlemen. And here we go. Hey, New Groiper, can you hear me?
Yeah, how are you guys doing?
Man, I'm still pretty I'm not contagious anymore, but I'm still kind of recovering. I lost like 20 pounds after being sick. How are you doing tonight?
Hanging in there, man. Hanging in there. Long day.
I feel
long
you.
days.
I feel you.
Yeah, just want to start off by saying, like, Trump needs to go blow Bill Clinton some more and leave us alone at this point. Like, just retire.
No, I agree.
Go on.
I agree. Well, I mean, it's everything we voted against, man. And the way I see them hype it up, the way I see them hype these wars up, and even the Ukrainian conflict where, he's meeting with Putin and apparently like they're making progress or whatnot. We're still just saying, hey, we won't fight over there, but we'll still sell the EU the weapons. Like, it's a complete joke.
The weapons that we don't have.
Right. Get into that a little bit.
we don't have any more, supposedly. Now I think it's a lie, personally. I mean, the missiles are made down in Key West, Florida. That's where Raytheon makes all their missiles down there.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a facility down there to make them. I think they're playing chicken and it's dangerous is basically the most simple way that I can put it. I think that Trump cares about one thing, and it's his ego. And it's sad because I voted for him twice, technically.
Yeah, we both did.
I mean, dude, I almost went out there to Washington for January 6th. I'm so thankful I didn't, but that's how mad I was over the results. And it's like, honestly, did that really affect anything? No. I don't know if you saw the reports that are coming out today. We're on track to have, I guess it's going to be the greatest job layoff since the Great Depression that we just started.
I did see that. Yeah. And the vast majority of the job losses are coming from small business.
Oh, yeah. They're killing them. They're crushing them. And they don't care. And that's the whole thing. It's our government has entrenched interests, and there's no way to get them out or get us out from under that.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, I've been so frustrated. I've been paying more attention though. I mean, I'm kind of black-pilled on Trump because he like that boomer slop that they fed us at the FIFA World Cup.
Yeah,
like, bro, I don't care about you dancing like a retard. Like, I'm sorry.
Well, they invented a peace prize and gave it to him, right? Because he's not going to get the Nobel, so they gave him the FIFA Peace Prize.
That's so funny and lame. I think history will look back on him as one of the worst presidents we've ever had. And I say, I mean, there's a lot of contenders to take that award, but I mean, I would just love to, maybe before I die, we'll have like an administration who actually cares about our interests at least once.
Right. Well, I think it takes the total collapse, right? I think it takes that new Great Depression for that to happen, because you point at and you say, hey, like, I think Trump's one of the worst presidents that we've ever had at this point. I would agree with you. But then you look at Biden, you look at Obama, and you look at Bush, you look at Clinton. I mean, it's been bad for a very long time. And I think you couldn't even point maybe since JFK or even since Nixon, since we've had even a decent person in there, right?
Yeah, probably longer than that, to be honest.
Yeah,
it's just absurd to me. It's like I've been keeping track of. I've been caring more about domestic stuff than foreign stuff, because our country's a mess,
right?
And and all of that. I like with the Venezuela stuff, blow them up. I don't care. I mean, obviously it's tongue in cheek, but like, least of my problems. I mean,
I hear that
much bigger fish.
I hear that, and I get that point, and that's why the call-ins are so great. That's why ultimately, like, having Tim and having a co-host is so great, is because we get to bounce these ideas back off each other and we get to get into them. I don't like the Venezuela thing because it's the antithesis of everything I voted for. Like, even more than the Ukrainian situation, at least the Ukrainian situation was an ongoing armed conflict, right? This is something completely new that we've invented. And people say, he's the drug kingpin, he's running the cartels, he's running all the drugs. And I just, like, how many times are there going to be weapons of mass destruction? How many times are there going to be chemical weapons? How many times are there going to be babies in incubators, man? Like, that's what pisses me off about it.
Here's another way to frame it, though. At least we're projecting power in our own hemisphere now.
That's true.
I mean, that is a positive spin. I think it's obvious. The policy with South America has been. I mean, America's always had their fingers in that. With the Contras and Bill Clinton and the drug smuggling and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
But for the past good while, it's been kind of, hey, we're going to focus on the Middle East. And the problem is that these problems in South America make their way here because when their country does something retarded, these people get in caravans and come bang on the border wanting in.
Right.
So it's kind of like, well, okay, if we're going to be bothered with this. Now, I don't know. I really don't. I guess I don't have a strong opinion on Maduro. I don't keep up with it. It's South America. I mean,
well,
it is what it is. I would like to keep China and Russia out. But.
It's a country that hasn't signed up to the IMF. That's what this whole war is about. I've heard this from U.S. soldiers, and I've heard this from Venezuelans. I've heard it from both sides of the story, and they all agree. They say that's what it's about.
Yeah. It's just kind of ridiculous to think about. It's like, oh, hey, we don't have. See, because here's why I think they're lying. Hey, we don't have missiles. But what are we shooting at these boats?
Right.
Missiles.
Right.
And missiles don't just grow on trees.
Right.
And I think, like obviously the military with the budget that we have, we spend a crap ton of money. And half of our budget, if not more, is just kind of black book kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think we probably have the missiles. I think we probably, but we're sandbagging. But I mean, I voted for no more wars because, frankly, we don't have the money to fight a war because we're in debt. And that's why the focus has been on the front, the American side of things. But yeah, the thing that I've really been kind of focusing on, I think we got a lot of spooks in our media.
100%.
And I think I think I'm gonna name some names, and I think Candace is a spook for somebody. I can't really put my finger on who, but she's either a spook or she needs to be put in a padded room. I don't know which one. Tucker Carlson, it's like, I don't know if you've seen it, but he's back on the attack of Nick Fuentes, right?
Yeah, I've seen it. That was a short piece, wasn't it? That was a short.
No, well, it's just like your dad used his goodwill to try to broker peace, finally gets it. And the second Tucker gets a boost in notoriety and gets a few kind words from Nick, it's like, oh, he's just an anti-Semite again. And it's like these people, it's just classical, it's counter-signaling, it's co-opting. They're like, hey, this Charlie Kirk thing, I think, is the biggest thing.
Mm-hmm.
Candace, like at what point, like when people are telling you like, hey, Charlie came and told me in a dream, like why aren't we like sending her to therapy?
Yeah. No, that is nutty. And that's one of the main things where people, I've talked to many people about this that are real true Candace believers. And I go, look, I mean, if you're having hallucinations about Charlie Kirk, I can't trust you. Right.
Yeah. Like, well, and the thing is when you look at who she's married to, which I tend to think that her husband's probably her handler. It doesn't make any sense otherwise. He's got ties to the government in England. He's got ties,
outrageously wealthy.
His father, what was that?
Outrageously wealthy. Yeah,
outrageously wealthy. He's in control of the Israel Zionist movement in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
And it smells like intelligence agency.
Yeah, you want to talk about a spook. I don't mean to interrupt you. I mean, here's the thing. I try to do geopolitical news today. My mind is frazzled. I can go back to my bread and butter, which is the cultural stuff and kind of the media infrastructure. I can talk about that all day. Someone that really stands out to me is Tommy Robinson. Really, really, really bad. Real bad. What do you think about him?
Well, I mean, I think he's. I mean, obviously, I don't care about British politics. They're cucked to the extreme.
Right.
Like it's over for them. It's over. Like they're like Australia. Just like we'll have a moment of silence and pray for their future generations who are going to be in slave camps. But it's over for them. But it's interesting. Like the thing that I find it most interesting, and this is how it kind of ties into the kind of geopolitical aspect is really I think that their foreign intelligence agencies obviously are involved in this, and our own combination, because I think, obviously all the intelligence agencies work together, but it's like the constant, like they couldn't stop the Israel awakening populist movement. So what did they do? They trotted out their golden boy, Tucker Carlson, which, I know you said he's been anti-war, but his track record is the opposite of that. It's like, no, it's a grift for him, because for the 20 years leading up to that, he was advocating for the war in Iraq. You think telling us about the weapons of mass destruction.
You think I'm not trying to interrupt you. You can get back into that. You think he's jumping on, he sees which way the wind is blowing with the way that the populist movement is going towards this issue.
Well, I think he's inherently dangerous. So the two thoughts that I've had about him is he's either a retard or he's extremely intelligent and he's dangerous and it's on purpose. I don't think he's a retard. I really don't. I think he's dangerous because it's kind of like the half truth, and it's like, so you say enough, basic things to try to gain some credibility,
mm-hmm.
and then obviously he brings your dad on to grift off of Alex's credibility. He brings on Nick to grift off of Nick's credibility, but then like immediately he just it's always half truths, and it's that gate kept. We want a narrative. And that's why I think there's at least one agency with him. Considering he tried to, the whole thing with Putin, the comment Putin made to him in the interview, I think people kind of gloss over that. When Putin called him out for, trying to get in the CIA.
Really?
I don't think it was a failure. I think he got in. Yeah, no. If you watch the interview,
okay.
It was the one Tucker did with Putin.
Yeah, no,
Putin has this change of tone, and he's like, "Oh, and by the way, talking about the agencies, and by the way, I know you applied to the CIA," and just looked at him dead in the eyes, and Tucker was just kind of like, and obviously his dad has connection. His dad was intelligence, and we all saw the expose that was done on his father.
Right.
And then he's like, you've got one interview saying, yeah, my dad was in the CIA. And then he's screaming at Nick going, how dare you? I didn't even know my dad was. It's like, no, that was a lie. Like, here's the interview from this time. You knew. You're intentionally misleading people. And then I think you've got, so I think that's like one pocket of spook work going on. And then the other one is like the Candace Owens. Or, like I said, she could be crazy. I can't put anything past her, but it's just like the populist movement, if you can latch yourself to it and discredit it from the inside,
do you think
the whole thing loses credibility?
Do you think she's running the op of, like, of course, like, I believe Charlie Kirk was killed because he was going to stop supporting Israel. Do you believe she's supposed to come in and make that theory sound crazy?
I think that she's trying to discredit the actual anti-Israel establishment that we have in the United States. So, it's kind of like Boy Who Cried Wolf. If everything, no matter what, is always Israel, which it isn't. Now, Israel is responsible for a lot of things and a lot of our corruption, sure, but we have to be accurate and technical when we critique these things with facts. And when it's, I had a dream, it's like, okay, no, you've lost, you've either lost your mind or you're running a psyop on us. And you start getting into her connections. I mean, she apparently had a separation from Daily Wire. It's just convenient how it's like she left Daily Wire, went independent, immediately started critiquing Israel at a normie level, and then now has geared everybody in this direction of, like, I don't want to say like Israeli hysteria, but just baseless, like low, like as it said, low IQ anti-Semitism. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not actual critiquing Jewish power, Jewish structures that are ruling America. It's just emotional, mystic, kind of Gnostic, kind of that kind of thing. And I think that's a problem that needs to be addressed. And I think it's going to take probably somebody like Alex to put an end to it, honestly, because he's really the main guy who still has credibility through all this. But I mean,
yeah, and
I don't know if that's
Here's my thing. I see my dad supporting a lot of the Venezuela stuff, and I really vehemently disagree with him on that. But I see him with his position on the Ukrainian situation, and I see him with his position on the Charlie Kirk situation. From what I've heard and from the private conversations I've had with Alex, he is trying to fact find about that, right? And that's why, like his opinion on that situation has evolved. My opinion on the Charlie Kirk situation is he had built up that Turning Point infrastructure basically to where that's a turnkey political campaign for anyone they want to insert, like that Brian Hollyhan guy, right? And it makes sense to take someone like that out so you can then go ahead and run that system. And, I'm not speaking ill of his widow at all. It's horrible that she lost her husband and all that, but I don't trust her at all.
No, well, she's got spooked parents. Her parents were in the defense contracting, really high up in that. And so allegedly, I'm going to say allegedly, there's some ties to some orphanages, like some kind of corrupt organizations inside of Ukraine.
I've heard about weird. That. I need to do more research on that. There's just it's so much bad, and you can't tell the truth about anything really. You can't tell what's going on. Like you can't really figure it out. There's so much. I call it like a shit screen, right? Like they just put so much crap out. You can't tell what's true and what's not.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think that's really that's kind of like what I think the core of the problem is, because I mean, it's one of the things where there are only so many people like to get messages to masses who have credibility and know the truth, right?
Right.
And they've managed to, obviously Alex is doing everything he can. I firmly believe that. Like if there's one person that I don't think is, got the call, it's him. Because like look at the different things. He's trying to broker peace in the populist movement. He's got the lawsuits. He's got, and then he's having to sift through all this other garbage and smokescreen. And it's like they're trying to rip apart this populist movement at the seams. And I'm not an expert in any of that, but you can kind of, just look at the writing on the wall and see what they're trying to accomplish. And, like I said, I think they're going to be like parasites. They're going to latch themselves on to credible people and try to discredit them.
Well,
I
I would like to see. Wouldn't you like to see that Turning Point Candace show or debate or discussion? Wouldn't you like to see that? I'd like to see that. I'd like to see the cards on the table.
She turned it down.
Yeah,
because her husband told her not to. Supposedly, told her she couldn't. I was like, oh, so now you want to be a trad wife? Really? You now we're swapping from e-girl to trad wife. Gotcha. Yeah, right. Well, and the thing is I don't trust them because I mean, as it's apparently, what's been said is that, Charlie's organization had really big, like money influence in the GOP, and you can't trust that because then that institution is corrupt.
Yeah.
So I don't trust them.
I saw an expose where someone went out to this building, Turning Point. They got all sorts of different like shell companies and whatnot, like many big organizations do. Right. And one of them had like $1.5 million sent to this like one strip mall that apparently this state senator or someone owns. I don't want to disparage or slander anyone. I'm not saying anything as fact. This is just a video that I watched. And apparently he owns all these various buildings, right? These are all these different like strip mall establishments basically. And that's where the Turning Point money is going to, apparently.
Yeah. And that really is the only aspect of, like, I guess the only way that really it would even possibly make sense that something happened to him, I think would probably be, I don't necessarily think Israel. I think that'd be way too hot for them right now because I don't think they're stupid. I think they're arrogant and that they feel superior to us, but I don't think they're stupid. And there's too much heat on that. Like if he was trying to exert too much influence on the GOP and they're like, oh, we got to get rid of this guy before he dominates us.
Right.
That's a possibility. But
that's a good point.
With all the spooks and, and all these, these tangled webs, it's so convoluted that nobody's going to know truth. What I really think is going to happen is there's just going to be a complete collapse of once government loses like 100% of, its legitimacy, all this stuff will kind of just fly apart and, into chaos, unfortunately. But I just really don't see a way we fix it short,
Yeah.
short of somebody taking power. But it's like, who do we put there? I mean, who's going to do better?
And that's what I keep saying is there's nowhere you can go to vote against any of this. It's all the uniparty. It's all the machine. And that's the deal that I believe Donald Trump was offered. And I've made this point many times on the gray area is he was offered the new Reagan deal to say, hey, look, you're not going to come in here and do all these things that you said you were going to do. Why would you want to do all these things? It's going to upset everybody and it's going to get you killed. Why don't you just become the new leader of the Republican Party? Why don't you just become the new Reagan figure and you'll be loved forever as long as you do what we say?
Yeah.
That's what I believe.
Right. And the problem is, though, is that they lie too. They'll betray him. And like Trump's already ruined his base. MAGA is dead. I think we can all say for certain that MAGA is dead.
I think that's true.
You know, what we're seeing now. It's like it's just lingering elements. Nobody wants to really admit that the party's over because we all know the implications of MAGA being over. We know what that's going to mean. And it means the movement failed. In a sense, obviously there were some wins along the way, but I think the bad is starting to quickly outweigh the good.
Well, he wasn't a wrecking ball. He was a building block for the system. And like that's what it all comes down to for me. Do you mind, New Groper, if I return you to queue? You're making a lot of excellent points, and I want to continue this conversation. If you want to talk more, I just have one other person that's been waiting for like 25 minutes. I'm going to go to them really quick. And
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead and feel free. I'll be hanging around.
Badass, dude. Love you very much. I'll be right back to you. All right, and we're going to go to Nimrod Pod now. Let's talk to Nimrod Pod. Nimrod Pod,
hey, Rex,
you're on
how
the
you
air.
doing?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Doing all right, man. Wanted to hit on Venezuela really quick. I personally think the lack of transparency out of the administration has kind of been nauseating. So, to be completely honest, I've been relying on your dad to get some sort of peek behind the curtain of what's really going on. But he's really been sending me in circles. I think he's spending most of his time exposing the corruption in Venezuela to justify Trump's regime change plans, but then he'll come on air the next day and say he's anti-war and he doesn't support regime change at all. I'm anti-war to a fault.
Me too.
But I think there is some sort of justification for what Trump is planning to do in Venezuela. I don't think that going to war with Venezuela is an impeachable defense, but the more I see the Democrats in the media, I'm starting to think that they're going to use Venezuela as some sort of pretext to impeach Trump. So now I'm starting to understand why Alex is defending Trump so much. And I wanted to get your opinion on, is there any sort of justification for going to war in our own hemisphere? What would it take for you to say, you know what, I'm not gonna fight against this?
Well, I think what it would take would be Venezuela actually being a legitimate threat to our national security, which I just simply don't think it is. I think the drugs are coming from other places, and it's very clear where they're coming from, especially the fentanyl, which vast majority of it is synthesized in Mexico after it comes from China, right? And I view the Venezuelan regime, I view Maduro, of course, I do view him as a dictator. I do view him as someone that's not good, but I view him as someone that's not a threat to the United States in any real measurable way. I view him kind of as we're the big kid on the playground and we found someone to pick on and we found a justifiable reason to pick on him. And that's just what we're doing. That's my opinion on that.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I mean, I'm pretty sure Trump went after the Mexican cartels in his first administration. Now they won't even, some of those Mexican cartels will kill anyone in their network that sells fentanyl to avoid the conflict. And now Trump's realizing, oh shit, people realize that fentanyl is not the problem. So now he's blaming other illegal drugs like cocaine and heroin.
Yeah. And the thing is, and this is the point that I've made a lot, and I'm still a little I'm not sick anymore, but I'm a little depleted and my brain isn't running as good as it usually does. But how much fentanyl exactly do you need to bring into the United States? If a grain of it can kill 10 people, how much needs to be shipped in all the time? Like this is what I don't understand. It doesn't make sense to me.
Right. Like, why can't we just shut the door and cut off the fraud and make sure there's no more drugs getting in here and let Venezuela implode on their own, hundreds of miles away? I think where it gets interesting is that I don't think Maduro is just this guy that we're picking on. I think Maduro is a total puppet. I don't think he has any sort of power. Like he was, singing songs about how much they want peace forever with the United States.
I saw that.
But then he completely flips on a switch last week.
Right.
I mean, we know that China is completely entrenched in Central and South America. You could say the same about Russia, but I don't think they're a threat. I think they share a lot of our values, real America first values.
I agree.
But like the fact, what do you think about China's involvement? I mean, this kind of harkens back to like Bay of Pigs type situation. At what point is it too much?
Yeah. Yeah, my thing is, I don't like the Star Wars narrative. I don't like the Star Wars story. I don't like the Rebel Alliance good guys versus the evil empire, because it's usually not true. Both sides are usually, bad in some respect, right? I don't believe anyone is an innocent actor on the world stage. And for us and for all the evil, frankly, that we've wrought across the world, especially in the past half century, I don't think we have the moral high ground or footing to really just declare impetus to do any of these things. And like you say, being anti-war to a fault, I just want the killing and the death and the murder to stop. I'm tired of seeing people die. And I don't care if they're Venezuelan. I don't care if they're Ukrainian. I don't care if they're Russian. I don't care if they're Chinese. I don't care if they're Arab. I don't care if they're Palestinian. I just want it to stop. I'm tired of seeing people get bombed to death. And it's like this cool factor that they show on TV. They show the missile strikes, that they show the weapons, that they show the engagements. And it's like we're supposed to take national pride in that, because we can't take national pride in anything else. We can't take national pride in our healthcare system. We can't take national pride in our infrastructure. Can't take national pride in our economy. Can't take national pride even in our own people anymore, with the violence and everything that's gone on. So the only thing we really have left is to declare war, because that's the only thing that we're quote unquote good at.
Right. And as you said earlier, it's like we completely voted against war.
Yeah.
And now they're posting memes and they're bragging and all these videos and they're talking shit on X about going to war with Venezuela and how we're going to kick their ass. But then they're not giving us any reason or any real justification as to why they're doing it. I think just the entire communication apparatus and the transparency out of the administration is going to be their downfall. That's why we're going to lose midterms.
Right.
And that's probably why we're going to lose 2028 unless Fuentes finds someone to challenge Dan.
And that's the real thing is like, until the administration started actually doing stuff. I mean, when Trump got shot, I pulled the cross out of my shirt and I told people to vote for him, right? Because I thought that they were trying to kill him for a reason. And I thought that he truly was going to do great things for the country. And I thought that he was going to stop the death. Like I believed, and, a part of me still wants to believe that Trump is anti-war and that Trump doesn't want to do this stuff. But the more and more we see of it, I think he's been convinced that it's cool and it's his right to do it, and he's got a mandate to do it. And, we cite the Monroe Doctrine. We cite that this is happening in our own hemisphere, so we have the impetus and right to do it. And, I guess that's more of a justification than actions in Eastern Europe or the Middle East or any other place across the globe. I get that it's closer to us and that it impacts us more, at least on a theoretical level. But the thing I have a problem with is why are we even doing this at all? I keep repeating that, but why are we killing people? Why aren't we, instead of nuking these boats from orbit, why aren't we, like that video I showed at the beginning of the broadcast, why aren't we actually interdicting these boats and stopping these people and taking them at gunpoint and taking them in for questioning and taking the drugs? It's like I said, a cop will pull someone over and take a pipe and an ounce of weed from someone and they'll put it on a table like they've done a great thing. Why haven't we seen a display of that? Why haven't we seen any of these drugs seized?
You're absolutely spot on. And the reality is, while we're spending money to Ukraine and Israel and we're going to war with Venezuela, I'm not going to be able to buy a house until I'm in my late 30s.
Yep.
And if I don't have a house, I can't start a family.
Yep.
And I haven't profited a single dollar since I graduated from college. It all goes to my expenses. Like, we're just getting completely pounded.
Yep.
But we're supposed to just go along with sending, 30+% of our annual salary to the government so they can keep doing this shit and keep fucking us over.
Yeah.
And I think we're in for a rude awakening, Rex.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think New Groper made the point of, maybe we're sandbagging, maybe we do have these munitions, maybe we do have the capability to actually wage all these wars. And we're kind of, pretending like kind of Palpatine, like, oh, I'm too weak, I'm too weak, I'm too weak. I see it kind of from a middle of the road perspective. I believe we do probably have more weapons. I believe we do probably have more capabilities than we let on. But on the flip side of that, if we have to go to that level and we have to release the secret stuff we have, I think that's really the end stage of America, right? If we reach that level.
Right. Like we're heading towards an AI Armageddon,
right,
where it's going to be running our country. It's going to be making all of our decisions for us. We're going to be in our Wall-E chair, jerking off and watching fucking cartoons from our, rot, basic rot. I mean, we're kind of fucked, man.
Yeah, and who cares if it's Jose in the fields when 10 years it's going to be a robot, and then the robot's going to fight the war too. And then how do you fight against that? How do you fight against the state police that are robots? How do you fight against the military that are robots? How do you fight against the workers that are now robots? And Americans will be displaced, and they'll bring in, a new digital currency that's based on our debt probably, and they'll declare UBI, and they'll say, hey, it's great now. No one has to work anymore. And I think war will always continue. I think it'll just get more efficient and more drilled down. And ultimately what they want is less people, right? Because we got too many people on the planet. We got too many useless eaters. We got too many people that the elites view as subhuman that shouldn't exist when they're building the system where none of us are needed, right?
100%.
Do you have do you have another point or topic you want to get into here? I know there's Venezuela and one other thing.
Yeah, just one other thing. I know you're a massive fan of his, so I just wanted to hear your take on the Benny Johnson allegations from Milo.
About him being gay?
Yes.
Well, he wrote for BuzzFeed, right? I mean, here's my thing. I view Benny Johnson as despicable because he's an access journalist. He's probably the king of access journalism. I view Benny Johnson as bad because why is he on a plane talking to Trump when all the people that actually fought for Trump and fought to get him elected, they're kind of iced out and sidelined. I view him as a nothing burger of a person, really, and he's just a plug-in for the state. I don't even really care about his sexuality that much. I'm disturbed at all the accounts that just parrot everything the administration says and act like that's MAGA and that's good and that's what we voted for. When, like New Groper said, I think MAGA is kind of dead.
It is dead. I mean, you see people like Benny Johnson. I don't know if he ever was like a reputable independent journalist, considering him from BuzzFeed, but then you also see guys like Nick Sorter who were these fantastic independent journalists that were, fighting for populism and humanity and the America First movement. Now they're just total shills for the administration.
Yes.
Like how do people turn on a dime so fast? It's sick. And I mean, to be honest with you.
Yeah. And it's like,
I don't care if Benny's gay or not. Go ahead.
Well, it's like you talk about, like, you go to college, you have to pay that off. It's hard to afford things or pay bills in modern America. But we're told that we're winning. It's all these wins 24/7 when on the ground, I make a lot of money and stuff's still really expensive for me. And it's really expensive to run a business and pay employees, right?
100%.
So, I mean.
Yeah, I do think there is some pretty interesting evidence that he may have actually be gay. I'm not sure if he looked into it at all. But it would be quite the surprise if he ended up being a gay guy.
Well, I mean, they're probably all gay. Like,
oh yeah.
I mean, I don't. My perspective on it is, I look at these people, and whether it's Benny, whether it's Gunther, whether it's Mike Cernovich, like pretty much anyone that was handed a binder, right? I look at them as state operatives. So like that's it's like New Groper said, spooks, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I appreciate you taking my questions. I think you're spot on the Venezuela thing. I think you're always pretty spot on when it comes to geopolitics. So I appreciate you being another voice that we can rely on. It's getting really hard to figure out who's on our side and who's not. So keep fighting the good fight.
I appreciate that. I just want an end to the killing. I want an end to the death, and I want pro-prosperity, pro-peace stuff to happen for America. And when you look at the Russia-Ukraine conflict, like you said, I think you're pretty, like you have a pretty positive view of Russia, and as do I, to be quite frank. Like, they have the resources we need. They've offered to partner with us. They have things to develop the Arctic that we don't have, and they're willing to make these deals with us. And we kind of turn up our nose at them, and we say, hey, you're still this, post-Soviet era power that's weak, and we can bully you and push you around. When really, talk about the New World Order that's been built. The New World Order that's been built has been built to destabilize and weaken America. And it seems like our own leaders do this by design, right? And if we truly wanted a strong, prosperous country, we would make allies out of people that should be our allies. We make enemies out of people that should be our enemies, but we do the reverse. We make our enemies our allies. We make our allies our enemies. That's my view.
It's my view too. I mean, it's hard to know who you can believe in. So I think, I keep trying to think of ways that I can help, ways that I can contribute. And I'm trying to find people that I can actually listen to that are telling the truth. And I always go down this spiral of doom and despair, but in reality, the only option I have in my life is Christ.
Yeah, it's all up to God.
I appreciate the fact that you actually talk about your faith, and I think more people should. So I'd love to see maybe some biblical deep dives out of you and Tim. You guys do a good job with the deep dives, so I think it would mean a lot for the audience.
That's a good idea. We should definitely do that. Something I want to do is a review of the Schofield Bible and the changes that were made. And really, if you look at it, not to get too deep into the Israel topic, I was kind of, my mission for today was like, okay, can I do a show where I don't talk about Israel for half the time? Kind of like my dad, I don't want to talk about Israel. And then he spends kind of an hour trying to not talk about Israel, right? Like that's kind of how the show goes. But at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, like, our government is compromised, right? And like 432 members of Congress, and then all the Senate, they all take the AIPAC money, and there's no one you can vote for that doesn't. I mean, MTG, she's dropping out, and I guess Massey's still around and whatnot, but it seems like they're all kind of bought into one political viewpoint that really is a religious theocratic viewpoint of, we are the Christian evangelicals, and in order to be blessed, we must support this state that really, hates us and hates, populations of people and wants to kill them. And I haven't talked about it in the past few shows, but it's not like Gaza didn't happen, right? It's not like that genocide didn't happen. I mean, they've killed hundreds of thousands of people there. They've wounded even more. I mean, you just look at the aid sites, the places that they set up when they kicked the UN out. They said the UN is, Hamas is stealing the food. We got to get rid of these 400 UN aid centers. They open up 4, and I think the number is like, it's even higher now. But when I looked at it, it was like 12,000 people seriously injured just going to get food and water. And that's stuff that the American government supports, right? And I didn't vote for that. And I guess I naively hoped that it might stop under Trump. But I mean, you look into Trump's background, there's really no one more pro-Israel, and they're allowed to do whatever they want.
Totally. I mean, Israel is about 50% of the reason I decided to start reading the Bible cover to cover. And like, once you read the Old Testament, you kind of understand how the Jewish people and the people that run the state of Israel got to be the way that they are. I think an interesting deep dive you guys could do is like dispensationalism versus covenant theology. I think there's overwhelming evidence that there is a transformation of Israel from the Old Testament to the New Testament. It goes from Abraham's ethnic descendants to followers of Christ, like big C, the church. So that would be an interesting one to hear from you guys.
Right. No, and I agree with you. That's a fascinating topic. Do you have anything else you want to close on? I'm going to go back to New Groper.
No, that's all. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, 100%, man. Call in again. Thanks for joining us. Thank you very much.
Will do. Thanks.
Peace. All right. I'm going to go. Actually, you know what, New Groper? I'm going to go back to you in a little bit. We've got another caller on the line. He's been on the line for 10 minutes. Apple Killer Venezuela.
Owl Killer.
Oh, Owl Killer. All right. Sorry. The call screener is a little primitive. How are you doing, man?
No, you're good. I'm pretty good. Hey, so, just I think people need to be a little cautious with this whole Venezuela thing. And there's certain things that have I've been picking up on, and there's certain characters that I think are sent out to basically target some of the alternative media, and I think your dad has been a victim of that in the past. And I'm not going to say anybody's name in particular, but do you remember a certain CIA operative from the 60s and 70s that went on your dad's show for about 10 years? And he was the first one to interject that Sandy Hook shooting was a false flag. Are you picking up what I'm putting down?
Last name start with a P?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
You notice he didn't get sued, but he was the first one to go on your dad's show and put that information out there.
Right.
And so, and you're familiar with I think it's Rob O'Neill, the Navy SEAL that killed Bin Laden.
Yeah, killed Bin Laden. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, why this stuck out to me really important? Why this became something I'm like, okay, I think these operatives are being sent to target the alternative media. The person that we were just talking about, that whose name begins with a P, when I told your dad about 2010ish or 2009 timeframe that Bin Laden died in a hospital in Dubai with Marfan syndrome. Well, Rob O'Neill gave an interview. I want to say it was Tucker Carlson, but it could have been somebody. It might have even been on your dad's show, saying how without anybody bringing it up, they put that out there as they put out that Marfan syndrome thing as a way to know if somebody was giving him real information or not, because that was not true. That he was never being treated for it. So what that tells me is that basically that information that was being relayed to your dad for about 10 years about Bin Laden and other topics, that basically we were being basically that was an entire psyop. And I'm starting to see it with the Venezuela thing now. You got Patrick Byrne coming on. It's basically the same cast of characters that were all part of that Kraken crap with the 2020 election.
Yeah, I hear that. Yeah.
And so now they're saying that definitely Venezuela was rigging the elections. Well, I'm really getting sick of the stay tuned to the next episode type of thing. Like, that is the case. Present us the evidence now, and then I think that is a justified thing. If what Patrick Byrne was saying last week on your dad's show, that they've been overthrown, that General Flynn was flipping out because they were overthrowing elections for 20 years all around the globe, that is a legitimate reason to take action.
But they say this, and they make this claim that this small South American government is responsible for the voting machines and all this stuff and all the political infiltration. And I agree with you. I think it's BS.
Whether it is or not BS,
yeah.
Like we got to stop being strung along. We got to stop being strung along with, hey, stay tuned to the next episode. And I love Candace, but she does the same damn thing where it's like, I'm being targeted, but you don't present any evidence. So, like, if this is the case, if Venezuela is really doing all this evil and now is basically the devil inside of Latin America, then present the evidence and you will gain the support. Now, what I do see is I actually think Venezuela, and you notice that Colombia is also coming up too as well, right? Right, with that president over there. I actually think this is take out Venezuela and Colombia and to cut Brazil off from BRICS.
It's a good point.
You take out the two countries bordering them, because if you were to overthrow Brazil, whether it's a color revolution or whatever they're planning, if you were to overthrow Brazil, you're going to have Venezuela and Colombia intervene, I believe. And especially if you have Venezuela, that is basically a Russian satellite country or a Chinese satellite country operating in our backyard. You know, that if you want to take that out first before Brazil, I actually think it's more of an economic thing, more so than, hey, they're running drugs. Because like as you were pointing out, you know, the drugs are coming from Colombia and they're coming from Mexico. I've never, like, this idea that Venezuela is this narco state. This is like within the last year. I'd never heard that in my entire life. And this is, you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
I really
it's brand new, and we didn't hear about this until really like midway through this year when they started kind of preloading this, and now like they're the evil titan that's always existed, messing with our elections and bringing in the drugs. And the thing that bothers me is you got Trump at the FIFA World Cup getting the FIFA Peace Prize or whatever BS they invented for him, and is sitting right next to Scheinbaum, and Scheinbaum is immensely corrupt. Scheinbaum is connected with the cartels, and the drugs they come from Mexico. They come from Mexico, but there you have Trump sitting right next to her. And hey, they're politically aligned. So for me, and it's like you say, like whether it is BS or not, and ultimately, like I'm just a guy sitting in a studio right now. I ultimately am not tapped in. I don't know. I just want to see the evidence, right? Like I want to see the drugs on the boats. How hard would it be to stop one of these boats? Like that video I just showed, and then you lay the drugs on the table. You say, this is what they had. This is what we got. These are the people we took in. We interrogated them. They gave us this intelligence. And then I would say, okay, but we haven't been given one example of that. And it's the same with the elections. We kind of hear these narratives from these people that are apparently in the know, and they come on and, you know, they've been kind of shown to give false information, in fact, kind of entrap people and get them in trouble.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that it's imperative that we pay attention. And I would relay that information to your dad, that to be on the. So for example, just a perfect example, right? For about a month, 3 or 4 weeks, how long were they telling us that it was that female cop that was the one responsible for the pipe bomb?
Right. And I bought into that 100% hook, line, and sinker.
And look who ends up getting charged, right? So that's what I'm saying. I think there's a lot of disinformation being brought out now, and like the best disinformation people give you 90% truth.
Mm.
You know, so like they relate, like Nick Sortor has been phenomenally accurate, you know, with things that have been going on with inside the FBI, right? And but he was the one that was going on about 3 weeks ago about how it was this female cop. It was him, correct? That was on your dad's show?
I believe so.
Right. If he's the FBI agent that was fired, correct?
I'm not entirely sure. I didn't follow that as closely. I don't think I watched that show, but I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that he's like a frequent guest. It's an ex-FBI agent that was a whistleblower, and he ended up getting fired.
I think you're referring to Kyle Seraphin.
That's it. Okay, that's the name. I'm sorry. I apologize to Nick then. It's Kyle Seraphin. So he was the one that was that was going off about how him and the guy from the Blaze, that there was this female cop that was shooting the rubber bullets first, and she was the one that they had known forever, based on how she walks and, you know, her having an injury in college. And then the alternative media is running with this stuff, pressuring the administration to do something, make an arrest. This person is in a safe house, supposedly hiding out. And look who ends up getting arrested. So it's stuff like that where it's like, okay, we really need to be cautious with the information that we're getting. And like, at the end of the day, like it's basically like it's a soap opera.
Nothing ever comes of it.
To jail. Yeah. And, you know, we just keep getting strung along, and it goes on for years. And it's like I do want to say one thing. I think Trump and the Department of War are making a mistake in even entertaining this war crime crap. And I'm going to give you a good example. The whole thing with, if Venezuela is doing what they're saying they're doing, then just shut up and keep taking out the boats. That's the way I look at it. If they're doing if Venezuela is really doing what they say they're doing, just keep taking out the boats. But the fact that you entertain this stuff, this is where the whole Russia collusion thing took off, where Russia collusion is not like collusion is not a criminal statute, but because you were defending yourself, trying to defend yourself in the media about this garbage, you ended up digging yourself in. You get your Sessions recuses himself. He never should have recused himself. There was nothing to recuse himself about. He fires Comey, and he for saying it was because of Comey and the Russia collusion stuff when he just should have fired him outright to begin with. But it's like you actually entertain these people's complaints. Like they have no problem when, you're for 20 years in the war on terror, our drones are killing a 10-to-1 civilian ratio. And there's no complaints about that. But you actually want to answer these people back with the whole. I would just completely ignore it as far as I'm concerned. With the administration.
I take your point. I take your opinion. I understand it. I get what you're saying here. You're saying, hey, we've been doing these like really on its face illegal military actions for decades across various countries. Why would you bring why would you make it the center issue that you're doing it in Venezuela again when we've been doing it all across the planet? I'm against it anywhere and everywhere. That's why I'm against it in Venezuela, and that is why I consider it to be a war crime. But it is like the administration setting itself up for impeachment, setting itself up for failure, and really setting itself up for failure in the midterms, right? I saw this thing where, and this is unrelated, right? But this is just interesting. This is just how the Republicans shoot themselves in the foot and lose election after election after election when they're given mandates to win, like the first Trump election and the second Trump election, where he won both over 300 electoral votes. Why would you remove Juneteenth and MLK as like free entry days to the national parks, but then make your birthday a free entry day to the national park?
Yeah.
Why would you just why would you do it? Just explain to me how that policy change helps anything, makes sense in any way, is in any way something that you should do. It's purely like it's an owning the libs, but it's also like a owning yourself. It's this cyclical cycle we go down, and this is how we lose elections. And that's the thing that pisses me off is like, I'm not someone that was anti-Trump and he got elected, and I'm anti-Trump after he got elected. I was pro-Trump when he got elected, and I liked his platform. I liked all the things that he was saying, right? But when it came down to it, he did the exact opposite of everything that he promised he would do. And I just look at it and I go, damn, not only am I upset at you for breaking your promises and not doing what you promised to do, I'm upset at you because you're handing these evil people a free fucking win. And he hands them free win after free win after free win after free win. And it's at a certain point where you can go, look, the classic argument for his first term is, oh, Trump had bad people. He's not a politician. He didn't know who to appoint. So the swamp creatures got in charge. And that's why the first administration was bad. You look at the second administration, it's possibly even worse, right? It's the same mistake that's made over and over again to a point where you can look at it and go, hey, maybe this isn't a mistake. Maybe this isn't a bug. Maybe this is a feature of the system. And I think, we viewed Trump as an accelerationist candidate, right? We viewed him as someone that was a wrecking ball for the system. You can look at anyone left, right, or center. That's what they believed about Trump, especially in the 2010s, right? And that's why he was elected, especially the first time. And it seems like he's a building block of the system to me. What do you think?
Yeah, I could definitely see your point towards that. I mean, I had said a couple shows ago to you that
right.
In all honesty, somebody's just going to have the balls to say, okay, the system is too far gone, and you're going to need to start over as far as from an economic standpoint. And I think that we don't. I think like he's, even if he has those instincts to do that, that there's something that, and like when you're starting to see this Venezuela thing heating up. What is going on again? The same thing that was going on with when the Iran thing happened. It was the peace negotiations with Russia.
Mm-hmm.
We get the military-industrial complex sucks us into this every time he's trying to make a peace deal. We get sucked into a conflict at some point in some part of the world.
Yes,
and and I think that I don't think he wants to bear responsibility because either, fortune favors the bold. Either he's going to be the leader that leads us in the free world out of this debt bondage, or we're going to have a collapse. And it's one of the two. And he has made some recent statements where he said, we're on the cusp. We can go either good or bad. He just made that statement. I think it was Friday. Right. And I had yet to hear him actually say what, the people that are informed know what's going on. I I think like you're going to have some very smart people that have a, that actually have a plan because I don't have the brain for that, and I'm smarter than most people. Like I don't know how to navigate us out of this, navigate through this storm. And, it almost seems like the globalists have these contingency plans built in where no matter if we go this way, it's like choosing your own destination, but it's choosing your own path, but you end up at the same destination.
Right.
Unfortunately,
I think what it is, and I've heard the guys on the Due Dissident show make this point over and over again, and I really agree with it. They need things to keep ticking along. They need the American public to remain complacent. They need the gradual decline to last just long enough for the automation to come in. And then when the robots run everything, who cares?
Done.
Right? What do you think of that?
And oh yeah, no, absolutely. Then we're absolutely done. And I just heard Elon Musk say, outside of he's like being a plumber, being a welder, an electrician, like almost all jobs are going away.
Yes.
There's going to be, and they don't have anything for us right now. You know what I mean? Like I think that's what they don't have a plan for what to do with the actual population once automation does kick in.
Well, that's what all that's what all the environmental poisoning is about. That's what the collapse of the economy is about. That's what it's a controlled collapse. And the thing is, I assume you're pro-life, right?
Of course.
Yeah, I'm very pro-life. I'm radically pro-life, right? And I view that position, in order to be ideologically consistent with holding a pro-life position, you actually have to be able to afford having children in this country and actually able to afford to feed them and send them to school.
For sure. And it seems like everything has been done to make it damn near impossible. I want to say there's a, do you remember that John P. Holdren, he wrote that book, Ecoscience. He was Obama's
Fill me in.
Climate czar.
Fill me in.
Your dad hit big on this in that Endgame documentary in 2009 when he made that.
Mm-hmm.
They even write about how they were going to make it. They were going to make it pretty. They wanted to actually make you pay money to have kids.
Yes.
So, they make it damn near impossible to. And it's the same thing. Are you familiar with Aaron Russo? He died, but your dad interviewed him a few times. He made that documentary, America, Freedom to Fascism.
I believe so.
Okay, so he gave an interview. He died of prostate cancer, but he gave an interview one point when he was saying how one of the Rockefellers asked him, "Hey, do you know what women's suffrage was about?" And he goes, "Yeah, I think it's about women's rights, civil rights, things like that." And he goes, "No, you idiot. It was about taxing the other half of the population and getting the kids in the government indoctrination centers earlier."
Dink, dual income, no kids. That's what they want. Yeah. Dual income, no kids.
Exactly. But it is by design. It's made for you to not be able to have kids. And I think that may be their undoing. The fact that, Gerald Celente has said, and I agree with him on this, when people lose everything, when people lose everything, they have nothing left to lose, they lose it. I think that is where they've bitten off more than they can chew. It's the sense that your generation does not owe my generation or the boomers a damn thing. And but you're being basically, at best, you're being held in place, and at worst, you guys are going to have a worse life than your parents did.
That's right. Shorter life, less quality of life, more sickness, more death, more debt. That's what it all is. And that's kind of the stated mission. And that's why you look at Gen Z specifically, both left and right, just you look at the levels of real extremism, populism on both sides of the equation. That's where it's all coming from. It's very apparent that there is no future. And if the right wing of freedom and pro-human and populism is co-opted or dead, or if it's represented by Trump, who really, I believe at this point is the antithesis of all those things, if that's shown to be false and fake, then people my age are going to gravitate towards socialism and communism ultimately, right? And they're going to be willing to accept that system. And of course, it won't even be a true socialism or a true communism situation. It'll be a techno-feudalism situation where they're just going to focus on whittling the population down and making you accept your own replacement, which will be the robot.
Well, you may get people to buy into that initially, but once people see that it does not deliver, you are going to have uncontrolled. You're not going to be able to control the population. Like I told you guys this. I used to laugh when people would say that the military was going to be used against the American citizens. I know what it takes to take Iraq. I know what happened in Afghanistan. There's not a chance in hell you could take the American population. And if your generation is faced with, hey, we got nothing to lose, the globalists have a major problem on their hands. Like I think that is why they just haven't brought the system down, because that's one wild card they can't control.
I agree, and that's why I think they're waiting for the robot army. And that sounds silly or whatnot, but I completely 100%
no, it's not
believe
silly.
that.
It's not silly. It's not silly. It's like you're seeing that in Ukraine.
Right.
Go watch.
Great point.
Go watch those. Like you're watching like World War I trench warfare, and then the freaking hunter killer flies right over you and drops a bomb. Like that. Some of those videos are horrifying.
Yes, it's the worst stuff I've ever seen besides Gaza. I agree. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, that's all I wanted to talk about today, man. Good show. I'll keep listening.
You. Thank you very much, Owl Killer. Really appreciate you, and please call in again. Appreciate your call. Thank you. All right, we're going to go to Jefferson in Virginia.
What's up, Rex? Who's your co-host?
This is Big Will Dollar Bill, also known as White Chocolate. He's doing some homework right now.
What's up, White Chocolate?
I just joined the show like 25 minutes ago, so I was listening to Al go on and on and on. Lots of good points, interesting discussion. What's the solution to our conundrum here?
I think it's awareness of the situation. I think it's awareness that whoever you vote for, they're not gonna actually do what you want them to do or what they represent themselves as being as a politician. I think the solution is having an actually informed public that realizes that the coming threat really is the techno-feudalism and the rise of the AI army. That's what I'm talking about here today.
Right. We're not going to be able to vote our way out of this because the people that we vote into office are traitorous and bought off and blackmailed, and the judges in our legal system are all bought off and blackmailed, and it's just a fool's errand to think that somehow politically we're going to get out of this mess without some sort of radical proposal, so to speak, to say, look, this is the terms of your surrender. Right? We got to tell these people this is how it's got to go down. There's going to be some sort of truth and reconciliation public grand jury kind of thing where we basically say, look, you can confess to all you did that was traitorous, and we'll let you live amongst us. You won't prosper here any longer, but you can still be here.
Right.
But we're going to have to recalibrate the whole system based on all the fraud that's gone on since the beginning of the creation of the Federal Reserve Bank and everything that happened after.
Right. No, I agree with that. I agree with that.
Right.
Yeah, my main conundrum when I think about things, I looked at Trump as a hero figure for basically an entire decade of my life, or not a decade of my life, but like 6, 7, 8 years. I believed in the guy. And then, the thing that really woke me up even more than the war issue is the Epstein issue, right? Because this is what they ran on. This is what they promised to be released. And then he never existed. He never trafficked anybody, XYZ. That really shows that it is all a big club and you can't vote your way out of it, because we were directly told that we could vote our way out of having these corrupt pedophile politicians. We were told that he was going to expose them. And then, of course, Cash and Dan Bongino and Trump himself, they all make the claims that in fact never happened.
Yeah, I still haven't figured out who exactly Trump is protecting with the Epstein files thing. It's got to be Adelson or Wexner or some of his Jewish friends.
I think I think it's all the people with the money. Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with you 100%. And he may be implicated. He may not be implicated. I think it's pretty clear that he knew Epstein and was very deeply connected with him. I'm not sure what he did or what he did not do, but to act like, it is a big club, isn't it?
Right, but I don't think he's protecting himself from the blackmail. I think he's protecting people that he considers supporters and friends and patriots
and
that are also Zionists, unfortunately.
Doesn't he want to be friends with the worst people possible? And doesn't he take his friends that actually support him and push them to the side? This is what we see over and over again. Like, he's a weekly listener of Mark Levin's show. He makes the statement himself, right? Mark Levin, anti-Trumper, never Trumper, but that's the type of person he's willing to support, and he won't talk to my father. Like, explain this to me. Why does Benny Johnson get to go on the jet, but my dad's not on the jet with Trump?
Well, your dad says he turns down the invitations to be with Trump. He's got better things to do. I
don't know if I buy that or not. I don't know if I buy that.
I can understand the thinking that unless you're going to have a weekend to bend his ear and get responses back, you can't just go into Mar-a-Lago and talk to him for an hour, expect you're going to get anywhere. But they're just going to sort of pat you on the head and say, okay, thanks for your input.
Right.
But here's the one thing. I just don't understand why, if Trump wants to make the case that the 2020 election was stolen, he doesn't have Pam Bondi get Tina Peters out of Colorado.
Amen.
This should not be This should not be a difficult thing to do. All he has to do is get Pam Bondi to file a federal case against Colorado in a federal election violation. Any technicality, you just say, we're suing Colorado. Tina is a federal witness, so she's coming out. She's a witness protection program. She's in danger there in Colorado because we're suing Colorado. So you can't hold her any longer. The supremacy clause allows the federal government to step in and take custody of Tina. She won't be freed. She will simply be in safer custody, but still be held essentially in prison, but by people that are looking out for her better interests.
That's a great
because
point.
She's a federal witness.
Man, that's a phenomenal point. Get into that a little bit more. I agree.
I just don't understand how all these lawyers can be around Donald Trump. And this has been suggested on the internet for weeks now, at least, that somebody should say she should be in federal witness protection long ago. And when they ask for her to be freed, all Pam Bondi says is, well, Trump can't pardon her, so I can't free her. So we keep using the wrong terminology. Every time we say we want her freed, when that's not what we really want. We want her in different custody. We want her in someone that's in protective custody rather than right?
Yeah.
So always saying we need Tina freed works against us because that lets that dimwit Pam Bondi say, well, she hasn't been pardoned, so I can't free her.
Right.
And that's not what we're asking for. We just want her to be safely out of Colorado in custody. She's still not on her own. She's not free to do whatever she wants, but she's protected. And that's the thing we need. And then she can be a witness and be deposed. She can give a deposition about what she knows for the federal case. So even if she died after being taken into federal protection, we would still have an affidavit that could be used in court. And then this whole election fraud thing could be unspooled, or however you want to say it, snowball into a big
I do
case.
believe I do believe the 2020 election was stolen. I believe it's plain as day. 81 million votes for Joe Biden. I call BS on that on its face. I simply don't believe in that. I don't believe that it's true. And you look at that period of time, that dark age really of the Biden presidency, where, Trump's being indicted, Trump's being persecuted, all of Trump's biggest supporters are the same is happening to them. People are being sued like my father and whatnot. People like Tina Peters put in jail. And he comes back into office and he still signals and makes the points and actually makes it a point to bring up that the election is stolen and XYZ and this, that, and the other thing, but he doesn't do anything about it ever. I can't parse out his motivation. I really have a hard time understanding Donald Trump. He's an enigma to me. And I thought I did get him, but I guess I was just a fool to believe that. He really.
I think the Tina Peters issue should be like our ultimatum to him, like a loyalty test to the people. If you're not willing to do whatever has to be done to get her out, then there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
Whether the Epstein files or Tina Peters, take your pick. But I would certainly prefer Tina get out of Colorado first, and then we worry about Epstein after that. But I mean, these things were promised to us.
That's true.
And I don't know what the problem is, but we as a people have to say, look, we're your supporters, but you've got to do what we demand you do of just as a show of faith.
Yeah. No, and I think that's what the American people have been like at first it was expecting that when he first gets into office, then it was hoping for that after a little while, after him not making the right moves, and then it was us being disgruntled right now that it's not happening. And I don't think he cares a lot. I don't think he gives a fuck about his supporters. I don't see the motivation for any kind of positive move on our behalf after everything that we've done for Trump, after everything that people, like, you talk about Tina Peters being in jail. Like, he could do these things easily. He could take her into protective custody easily. He could use the supremacy clause like you talk about easily, but he doesn't do it. But he signals, he talks about it, he tweets about it. That's almost worse than doing nothing and being quiet about it, in my opinion, because it's giving false hope. And then I see all the big Twitter accounts, they'll retweet stuff like that, they'll post stuff like that, but then nothing ever happens. And those people, when they meet with Trump or get access journalism, access to Trump, they're not talking to him about Tina Peters. They're not talking to him about the Epstein files. They're wearing an alligator Alcatraz shirt. I mean, it's sick, in my view.
Yeah, well, it's quite disappointing that there are plenty of people that are trying to get information to him that never seems to get through in a way that he could confront the people that are misadvising him. I mean, I understand Todd Blanche and Pam Bondi are pretty much worthless in terms of giving him good advice about what can and can't be done legally by the federal government. So he needs to talk to Andrew Bailey or something that's over at the FBI doing nothing that we know of at the moment, who was a former AG in Missouri. He can tell him, yeah, obviously you can get Tina Peters out, but you do need to file a federal case. So there's a reason for her to be a federal witness. Until you file a federal case, she's not a federal witness. So it's a mere two-step process that Pam Bondi should be able to do in an afternoon, but she's always putting on her makeup and getting ready to go on Fox News and never at her desk. So I mean, it's just you need to put some sort of camera person on Pam Bondi 24/7, just Bondi camera, and say, what are you doing today at your desk? Nothing.
Right. And I think that is I think that they've been told that they're supposed to do nothing. I think that they've been told they're supposed to toe a party line. I think they've been told that they can signal certain things to appease the base, but hey, you're not really going to go that way, because if you go that way, we're going to hit you hard. I think they're all compromised. That's my opinion. That's what I believe.
Well, at least the top two at the DOJ have issues. I don't know what's happening below that level.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at what happened with us, I mean, my dad, when I was so happy to go see him, meet with Ed Martin and talk to him and do all this stuff. And look, the FBI and the DOJ, whatever you think about the case, whatever you think about the judgment and all of it, it's illegal on its face because the federal government funded these lawsuits against us, right? So immediately that should render them null and void. You shouldn't be able to do that. And I know it's not as serious as a case of a woman being in jail that shouldn't be in jail, but ultimately I harken back to the point of talking about all his strongest supporters really being strung up. I mean, Trump told my dad in 2016 or 2015 that he was a great guy and that he wouldn't let him down on his show. And we've never seen any kind of real physical, tangible support. And, whether you look at the first, second, or third terms, really, or elections, all the people that stood up for him, he kind of ignores while they get smacked down. And all the people that spat in his face, he wants to be their friend. I think it comes down to this one thing. I think Trump has a pathological need to be liked. And I think the people that hate Trump really desperately wants to be his friends. And I think the people that Trump knows like him already, I think he goes, okay, I got him in the bag. I don't really have to do anything for him. In fact, I deserve their love and they should just give it to me automatically. I mean, he even said something to that effect. He said, like, I decide what MAGA is, or like, I am MAGA, essentially, right? And that's not true. That's never been the position, right? Like, Trump didn't invent America First. Trump didn't invent MAGA per se. It was the populist American movement of the Tea Party and really Occupy Wall Street too. It was that coalition of forces that were against economic control and decline in our country coming together that voted for Trump as a wrecking ball for the system. And those people have been largely ignored, whereas the neocon establishment, people like Levin, people like Ted Cruz, people like everyone really in power now, the people that were never Trumpers like Lindsey Graham, he's his golfing buddy. So what does it take to be Trump's golfing buddy? Like, do you have to hate him the most out of anyone in the world for years and then you get to be his friend? Like, maybe my dad should have been anti-Trump the first term. Maybe he'd be a press secretary right now.
No, he does seem to take people that are most loyal and forgiving as for granted. That's understandable, and I don't quite understand the Lindsey Graham connection. I understand they golf together off and on. He golfs with a lot of different people, but he golfs with some of the right people, but he also golfs with people you wish you wouldn't have any association with. So I don't know what happens out there for 5 hours.
Nothing good
at Trump International, but
oh man, yeah,
it's
kind of
your father played golf in his youth. He could take up golf again.
Yeah, he doesn't have an Achilles. That's the problem. His right foot, he stepped in a gopher hole at Big Bend National Park like 10 years ago, and literally, if you look at his ankle, it's the weirdest thing. He's got like a dent. He literally has no Achilles tendon. He walks around with no Achilles tendon. He says that off and on the air, and like people believe it or don't believe it. Like I've seen it. It's one of the craziest things. So like. I'm impressed that he even works out, to be honest. But maybe he should golf. Maybe he should go golfing with Trump.
He'll have to hit the range for a couple of weeks, get his game together.
Yeah. Now watch that drive like George Bush. Yeah.
All right, I've said my piece. Good show, guys.
Right.
Nice to let me in.
100%, man. Thank you, and I hope you call back into the show. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, we're going to go back to New Groiper. New Groiper, what do you think about the discussion tonight? What do you think about the points the callers are making? You got anything else you want to add on to, or you got a new road you want to go down here? Hello? Do we have New Groiper?
Hey, sorry, I was on mute.
No, you're all good, buddy.
I don't know how I followed that up. That was a couple back good callers.
I agree.
The one that I really found interesting was the one where the guy mentioned Steve Pieczenik and all that whole thing. Because I went down that rabbit hole because I was like, what happened to him? Because I took a break from watching InfoWars and came back to it. And it's just like spooks everywhere. Like you open your sock drawer, there's a spook in it. It's like it's insane to me, honestly.
Yeah.
But I at the end of the day, I really don't. Everything is so convoluted, man. Everything is so convoluted, and I don't think we're going to get to the bottom of it. Trump's administration is going to.
The common thread across all callers really is that shit screen that I was talking about of misinformation and disinformation and bad information that's put out for the good people, the populous people, to ultimately unwittingly spread. And I think we see a lot of that, right? And that's what I take issue with.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's tough too because it's like there's so much going around, and especially too, it's like you're trying to host a show and you're bringing news to tens of millions of people every day, like Alex is.
Right.
Like, how are you even remotely supposed to navigate that? I mean, obviously he's got experience being around as long as he has, but I mean, that's still like trying to figure out who's who and what's their angle for telling you this and that, and all the behind the scenes stuff that I'm sure goes on.
Right. And
it's crazy. And on. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. My bad.
But I think, like I said, I'm not trying to incite anything, but like the other caller said, there is no peace. I don't think there's a peaceful solution out of this.
Right.
I just don't.
Well, I think it comes from the crash, man. Like I think the 30s are going to be a crazy time. I think we do have a couple years left of relative normalcy, whatever that means. I think we'll see more assassinations. I think we'll see more structural collapse. I think we'll see more wars during that time. But eventually, maybe when the debt hits 50 trillion or something like that, the other shoe is going to drop, and the American people will suddenly be left penniless, and they'll realize in that moment that they were penniless for decades, but the skeleton of the system was still there to prop them up, right? So we're entering into a time where when you have a $10 gallon of milk, when you have a $15 cheeseburger, when you have rent that's $3,000 a month, not in New York, but in somewhere in Kansas or somewhere in Tennessee or somewhere in Texas. I think when we reach that point, I think that's where the real societal change could come. But it's like I said earlier, I think that they're waiting until they have the AI and the robotic infrastructure built up to where it's not really a problem anymore. And the real heartbreak I have with Trump is I thought he was going to stop this system, but the people he seems to be the most fond of, even more than the politicians, are the big tech people. I mean, he gave $500 billion to the OpenAI and all that in Project Stargate, right? So even more than the corrupt politicians and the warmongers, he's given money to the system builders, and he's given power to the system builders, and he's erasing liability for the system builders. Eventually, these people are going to rule us, man, and it's not even going to be the political class; it's going to be the billionaire class.
Which I think we're already there for that.
I agree. Yeah.
You know, and everybody, and this is what gets me about Elon Musk. Everybody like a lot of people are like, oh, he's great, and you know he should be involved in the administration. First of all, he's a foreigner. Second of all, he's a foreigner tech bro. He should be as far away from power as we can possibly put him. And you know, it's like the dude, like just kind of breaking down what he's done. It's like, okay, so he bought Tesla. The cars were already made when he bought it, right? They made some revisions, but that tech was there. You know, the space and rocket stuff, all that stuff is subsidized with U.S. dollars.
Mm-hmm.
It's taxpayers that are funding, enriching him. It's like, and we're sitting there, oh, these are our experts. They're just like, they're on the teat of the government in the most simplest way to put it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I just don't get it.
And why do we have, and I've seen some of these Congress people, why do we have people in our government that weren't born here? I take huge issue with that. And you can talk about, oh, immigration, this, that, the other thing. And I argue with Tim about this all the time. And you see it, we do it on the show, and you call in, you contribute to the conversation. We should not have anyone that's not born here in a position of power. Like I firmly believe that. And I think that's a perfectly rational position to hold. And I think anyone that holds a counter to that position is a enemy agent against America.
Absolutely. You know what I find funny? Even the Republicans, you know, we got the immigrants too. Ted Cruz.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He's Canadian.
Yeah, Canada's
He's Canadian.
Yeah. He ran for president.
It's just like,
mm-hmm.
How did he run for president if he was a Canadian-born citizen?
Right. Well, we need our first Somali president. That'll really fix things. You know, that'll fix things for the country.
Gosh, I just my only hope is that this gives rise to the most far-right populist nationalist that we can possibly muster, and you know, whoever it is takes power for a season and just. But then again, once you give power, you don't get it back. So
right,
kind of double-edged sword.
Yeah, we're headed there, man. And you know, like I really support Fuentes. You know, despite some flaws he may have or whatnot, I think he truly is for real. And I think if he was able to build up this political movement for another decade or so, I think he really could affect real change within the system. And that's why I really like his message of, you know, Elon Musk and all these people. They'll come out, you know, they'll tell people be plumbers, be electricians, work at the store, have the kids, be broke. And I think trades are very important. I think it's very important we have people go into trades. I'm not discounting that, but ultimately the message that Fuentes gives out of, hey, go to college, get in the power structure, get money, have the ability to actually affect social and political change. I think that is the message that's important specifically for young people to hear, because the system, it's got to be infiltrated at the end of the day, because bad people are infiltrating it. Why can't good people infiltrate it?
That's what everybody wonders why he's so big. And, you know, all of these people it is just kind of a drama. And that's why I get fatigued with it from
soap
time to
opera.
time. But like Fuentes actually, you know, he offers a solution, which is take power, like get into power, take it over, which I would argue is really the most peaceful solution that we can think of as compared to the alternatives. But it's, you know, like I really wish your dad would run. I know he'd rather probably rip his eyes out than do that. But, you know, put somebody on the ticket, you know, and have somebody who can take power and use it for good.
Right.
But it won't use it to enrich themselves. which is kind of seems to be the prevailing theme.
You know, I was thinking about, and I'm still thinking about buying my plane ticket and buying my ticket to the event and going to AmFest, going to that Turning Point event. I want to see how these junior political operatives and these people they're setting up to be in power. I want to see how they behave. I want to see who's whispering to them. I want to see who's leading them around. Like it really is fascinating. I've had some experiences with young Republicans. I've had some experience with think tanks. I've had some experience meeting with people in Turning Point. I've had some experience with these folks, and universally, I mean, your skin will crawl when you deal with these people.
Yeah.
And I know that if there's enough talented, smart young people that actually are able to, get into those organizations and eventually are either able to expose or take power in them, I think we could affect positive change because, I don't see a super genius, mega mind, elite class ruling over everyone. These people just think that about themselves. They're actually very average people at the end of the day. They're very average people. They have the connections, they have the money, and they're evil. They're willing to, exact their power over others. And, I don't want to get too far into it. I don't want to reveal too much information, but, I went to this event and I was invited to this event by someone. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go check this out. I'm going to go see what it's about. And the speeches that these people give about themselves, about being the best and being, the people that should be in charge and XYZ, and it's for the good of everyone else. I was just like, whoa, man. Like, all right. Okay. This is what we're up against, huh? Right.
Yeah. They sit in the halls of power and they're on the campaigns, and don't worry though, midterms in 2028, it's going to be a GOP reckoning, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, me too, man. I ain't voting. I ain't voting. I ain't voting. Like I'm not a cog in your machine anymore, man. I'm not a sheeple anymore. I'm not going to that poll. You know what? You lied to us and you did the exact opposite of everything you said you were going to do. So, you know what? Let's see it. Let's see how much those boomers you brainwashed are worth. Let's see how many of them you can bring out to the polls, because I guarantee you it ain't going to be enough.
They're dropping like flies every single day, man. Every day. They're less and less, I was in a church and was talking with a pastor. He was talking about wanting to make changes in a church. And, politics and church kind of structurally, they operate in similar realms, if you get what I'm saying. And he told me, he's like, man, honestly, the best thing that could happen for us right now are funerals. And I looked at him and I was puzzled. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, we need old people who are bent in this way to go on. And I think the same is true with our nation. We need the boomers to go. We don't need to replace them with migrants and foreigners. We don't need to do none of that. We just need them to go. I think we'll see some change. Now, at the end of the day, these young, like the young Republicans and all those guys, they are literally just awful. And also super gay in every way. And so I think they'll still try to act the same, but it'll be harder to pitch a millennial, predominantly millennial nation. You're not going to be able to sell them on a war,
right?
Unless it's a really good reason,
right? I want to see that. I want to see that two-party system broken. I want to see it scattered like dust in the wind. That's what I dream about, man. And there are cons to that. You can argue there are cons to having things balkanized and having a bunch of political parties and whatnot. But at the end of the day, I think both the lefties and the people on the right, I think that they've both realized for various different reasons that the people they vote for don't actually represent them. And, that's why you can look at people on the far left and you could say, hey, I really oppose most, if not all of what these people stand for. At least they're being consistent and saying, hey, like, my people aren't voting for what I want. So, I'm not going to vote for them, or I'm going to vote for someone more extreme. And we kind of see this sheepdogging on the right of, oh no, we won. We're in power. We're in charge. We just got to push a little bit more. Are you not a believer? Are you not a believer in our system? Are you a traitor to our system? Are you a traitor? And the irony and really the hypocrisy and the arrogance of calling the people traitors that are loyal to the beliefs and loyal to the values that they voted for, when the people in power are the true traitors. That's what really gets my goat. That's what really grinds my gears. That's what really pisses me off. I want to see the whole thing burn. And you know what? That's not a popular
Yeah.
opinion. My dad wouldn't like that opinion, but that's just what I believe. And hey,
Yes, I was about to say.
yeah, you're watching this show. This is the Gray Area. Tim Tompkins, Rex Jones. Tim's usually here. He's not in town today. He's over in Germany right now buying some equipment. But like this is an independent show. This is an independent broadcast. And my perspective, people call me a black pillar, people call me a doomer, people say that I'm too negative. I say, what has been positive about this bullshit ever gotten us? It's gotten us nothing. It's just gotten us further and further down the road. Right?
Absolutely. And you know, you said your dad wouldn't like it. That's the thing. I think he's gonna have to be the one just to eviscerate Trump. And I know it's gonna hurt him because, I mean, he knows Trump and and that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, this guy has done nothing for us, for him, for nobody except for a select group of people, and we are not in that group. And so if this is going to be a populist movement, we need the largest populist people who aren't, like neocon shills trying to mask as, populists, to rise up and say, hey, the Trump experiment failed. And ultimately what I think you would see, like if Alex makes that statement, he gets a call from Trump the next day.
Yep.
Maybe sooner. And then they're going to go, oh, well, what's wrong? What's wrong? And it's like, what do you think's wrong? You've done nothing. You've done absolute nothing. And so, but the thing is they're never going to change if at the end of the day, they think that they have us.
Yes.
No matter what.
Indeed.
There's
Very
no
profound.
incentive for them to do it.
Very profound. Yes, they do think that they think that they have us. And that's, they think that they have us in in their pocket. They think that they have us in their network. They think they have us in their political system. And we rejected it. We voted to reject it. And the rebuilding of the left-right dichotomy is not what we voted for. And like I've said it over and over and over again, like 5 times on the show, probably alone, he is the new false, or really true, because Reagan was bad too. He is the new Reagan figure. And I ain't on board with that. I'm not a fan of Ronald Reagan. You know what I mean? I look at it. I look at it from the perspective like you do of the boomers are dying off, and a prominently Gen X or millennial nation isn't going to support war in the same way that they did. But at the end of the day, are we brave enough as a people to reject authoritarianism? Because you look at these old people, they're all authoritarian. They believe might makes right, and we rule the earth.
Right. Yeah. And even the young people. A lot of the young people want an authoritarian rule. They think it'll take authoritarianism. And I think that's a debate to be had for sure, because at the end of the day, think about this. If we were to root out all the corruption, how would you even begin? Because, okay, well, if you start rooting it out, then they're going to assassinate you.
Right.
It's like if there's going to be change, it needs to be quick, it needs to be fast, it needs to be done by the military, and it needs to be done before the news outlets can report on it. You know what I mean? Just like bam, like hey, we got everybody. You should see some things correcting itself in the next 6 months, and that won't be popular, and that person, whoever does that will be viewed as horrible, but. There really isn't another solution. I mean, the entrenched interests are just blatantly everywhere, and they're not even trying to hide it anymore, which makes which means they're really arrogant about it.
Yeah,
they really think that there's nothing we can do, and it's like, hey, we just all don't want society to collapse, and that's kind of been the thing that's holding us back. But at the end of the day, it's going to collapse anyways, and we're just kind of instead of we have a gunshot wound, instead of instead of sewing up the wound, we're putting a Band-Aid on it, and we're bleeding out.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more like having like a gangrenous wound or something, or an arm or a leg you have to amputate. I think that's the position that we're in more than anything. And it's a person saying, no, I want my leg. I want to be able to walk. I want to be able to walk with 2 legs. I don't want to use a crutch. I don't want to use a cane. I don't want to break. I don't want to have this collapse. And it's like, well, if we don't have this collapse, your entire body is going to die. Right. That's how I see it. Yeah, I know it's not a nice thing to say. It's not a nice thing to hope or speak positively of a collapse or of a recession or of a depression style event. It's horrible. And I don't want people to die. I don't want people to starve. I don't want people to get hurt. But at the end of the day, the way things are going, there aren't going to be any people at all. You know? So like
there won't be a future. Right now, the way things sit now, there is no future for us. Unless we physically change it, or unless it gets changed by somebody at it. So I mean, kind of the one. It's like, do you prolong the end for the sake of have a little bit more time, or do you just get it over with?
Right.
So we can move to the next cycle of rebuilding, and then that's kind of where I think we need to go, unfortunately. And a lot of people say that's black pill, but the thing is every society goes through ebbs and flows, and empires rise and fall.
Right.
And life goes on.
Right.
So it's not the end of the world. It may be bad for a lot of us, but also our forefathers and/or our current generations, they did this. So it's kind of like time to reap what you sow.
Yeah. And you know who's been putting out really good work on this whole perspective of talking about, not necessarily, I guess the black pill perspective, or really the realist perspective of, Americans wake up, you don't have a country anymore, is Tim Dillon. Have you been catching any of Tim Dillon's shows? I mean, he's been doing a phenomenal job. I mean, his last broadcast was super powerful. I've been tuning into him a lot. I've been listening to him, and he puts it in a very approachable way, in a very humorous way for people to be able to kind of laugh at it and cope and deal with it. But he talks about everything being owned by the special interests. He talks about the descent of the country. He talks about the affordability crisis. He talks about the future automation. He talks about all of it. And, that's someone that I'm putting a lot of hope into him. And I really admire him for that, because, he had the opportunity to have JD Vance on, and he's had political dinners and whatnot with these people. But unlike people like Benny Johnson, unlike all these other political actors, he didn't sell out. He's gone more hardcore. I mean, he's more hardcore than my dad is right now, to be frank. And I've been quite shocked by that, but I've really been enjoying it.
Yeah. I haven't seen any of his stuff.
You got to check it out, man.
I think that
really good.
Yeah, I'll have to take a look at it. I mean, I think that honestly, I think with your dad, I think the reason why he's going the direction he is because he doesn't want everything to fall to pieces. Yeah. And it's kind of, it's kind of one of those things where it's hard to come to terms with the fact that the loss has occurred.
Right.
And so things won't be the way they were 30, or 15, 20 years ago.
Right.
But I get that. I completely get that.
No, I understand. I understand it as well. I get being hopeful, but it just seems like a fool's errand to me at this point. And it's like you talk about like the spooks, man, like people like Patrick Byrne and others, just they show up and they give the narrative. And how are you supposed to use discernment when everyone you have on is basically giving you the state-run narrative? And I just like people like Gerald Celente, man. Like Gerald Celente used to be on the show all the time, and Gerald Celente is super anti-war and has become super anti-Trump. And, I got to say, I love Gerald for that. And I wish we'd listen to more voices like that. I wish we'd listen to more voices like Judge Napolitano. I wish we'd listen to more foreign voices, even people talking about this stuff. And I know that you're American nationalists, and I am too, to be frank, but people in other countries, they look at us, and I think that they're starting to feel sorry for us because they understand that our government's compromised and taken. Right?
Right. Yeah. The thing that gets me, like Patrick Byrne is a retard. And I love the info, I love InfoWars. I watch it almost every day.
Me too.
As long as I'm, I have time. But when I hear idiots like that get on there, I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna doom scroll TikTok now.
Yeah.
Because it's like this guy he just makes no sense. And obviously some of those guys are coming on A, to grift, B, to try to get bigger, and also to misdirect. And the number one thing that I want is this, we're teetering on the edge. That soap opera kind of style, as the previous caller said. I'm so over hearing that, like the pearl clutching, that kind of thing. It's like, hey, let's get the show on the road. Like, if we're going to call it out, then let's start exposing stuff and getting to the bottom of stuff, which obviously, does happen on InfoWars. But, it seems like the administration gets gets more leeway, I guess. I wouldn't say there's a bias necessarily, but I would,
Well,
obviously there's a lot of
I
hope
think it's
there in that
hope, right?
administration.
I think my dad truly does want to believe that we like that there is some sort of big win possible, and I think that it makes sense. Like, I mean, how long have you been an Infowars viewer or listener? How many years?
I jumped into Infowars in 2019.
Okay.
2019, start of COVID. So
yeah, Trump changed
it's a good time to get in.
Trump changed everything, man. Like when Trump came around, it became like we had someone that we could hope in. And that was kind of the shift that I noticed, because prior to that, like my dad had never endorsed any political candidate ever. And it had always just kind of been like an anti-uniparty, anti-globalist perspective. And I agree that that's like where it started with Trump. And I would argue like that's where the belief continues. And even though I believe it's a foolish belief, I do think it's genuine. And I do genuinely think that he trusts and hopes in him to right the ship or turn things around at a certain level. But you know, I remember a time when we were talking about the FEMA camps. I remember a time when we were talking about Agenda 2020 and Agenda 2030. I remember all of these old things. And I look at now living in the future, like we're there, we're here now. And you came in listening in 2019. I think Infowars' best work in the modern era was during that Biden dark age. I mean, you want to talk about good things that have been done. I mean, we stopped thousands and thousands of people from taking that poison shot. And I think that's heroic work. And
yeah, absolutely.
People will criticize.
That's what got me.
Yeah. People will criticize my dad or criticize Infowars or make all these points. And, you know, I agree with some of the points that they'll make, but like the due dissonance people, right? And I'm a huge fan of their show, and I catch almost every one. Like they had one tonight, and I'll probably watch that before I go to bed, or at least a part of it. I was watching it before I went live. And they'll really dog on Alex. They'll really shit on him. And I'm like, hey man, you know, you're invalidating a body of work here because of, you know, a big bad call, but you know, it's just one bad call at the end of the day. And that's what I truly believe. Like Alex is,
it's not even,
go ahead.
It's not even like it wasn't even a bad call. Working off of the information, like Trump was just dishonest with him. I mean, Trump came on Infowars one time, got the seal of approval and said, thank you, and left. Now, what's going to be hilarious, and I'm going to go ahead and predict this now. The only thing that makes it good that he's waiting this long is when he finally does crash out. And it's going to happen. I really think he's going to crash out on Trump and the administration. And it'll be the most viral clip that we've seen in the next, you know, of a 10-year period.
Yeah.
Because he's going to go nuclear, and it's going to be it's going to be like shooting a nuclear bomb into that administration.
You know, it's happened.
Kind of.
Yeah. Well, it's happened one time before, and he said you started listening in 2019 when Trump launched missiles into Syria. My dad came out very strong and very angrily against Trump. He said, F Trump. And he went on a big tangent, and Trump didn't proceed with those strikes. And, you know, things kind of reversed themselves from that perspective. And we didn't touch on it again after that. But I think that energy is there, and it is simmering. And Alex doesn't like the total betrayal. And I think that'll come up again, you know? So very interesting.
And you know, his patience with it. Well, and we don't like the patience now because we're impatient, because we just kind of see the way things are. But it's really going to work towards his advantage, because when he finally does blow a gasket and go nuclear on him, everybody's about, well, he's defended Trump for a very long time, and it's going to amplify that whole situation. And
right.
Then I'm just waiting for it to simmer, and you know, I'm looking forward to the day where I hear it, because I mean, you can tell he's frustrated. You can tell he's frustrated with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's only a matter of time.
And I know you're not a Tucker fan. Neither am I, from the perspective of trusting him, but it has had a huge impact, Tucker questioning Trump's actions. It's undeniably had a huge impact on the right. And you can say, oh, well, it's kind of just creating this storm and it's creating the division, and that's what they want. But on the other hand, like, I do like to see that, you know, and I think that's been a good thing that Tucker's done.
I think it's the opposite.
Okay.
I think it's the opposite. I think he's not in the sense of that he's trying to split. I think he's gatekeeping. So like when a pipe has pressure and the pressure overloads, you have to release some of the pressure or it'll blow up. And I think what Tucker is doing is he's doing a controlled pressure release, which is why he always gatekeeps. You know, it's why he'll flirt with some ideas, but at the end of the day, he's still a GOP party man. And honestly, I think he's a snake in the grass, and I think anything he touches is in danger. And ultimately, that's gonna have to be handled. And all those, like those Laura Loomer types, and Laura Loomer used to be around InfoWars. I remember that. Now I didn't like her then because I thought she was weird, but I remember her being around. I remember a lot of these. I've been around long enough to see these people come and go and see kind of how they turn the corner, and then now they're establishment people once they got their foot in the door.
Yeah,
because they get the call.
That seems to be the mission, right? That seems to be the mission. That's why these people get into politics or media to begin with, is they want to be a part of the power structure. And that's the most disgusting thing, to represent yourself as a populist when you're really a member of the system. That is the real problem. That is the problem we see in America.
Absolutely. Yeah. The populist movement is going to have to get active in a big kind of way. And I think it's happening. I think you're going to see the Great Rebellion at the midterms. I firmly believe that InfoWars will turn the corner on this sooner rather than later. I think that with all that movement, because I really do, I think InfoWars might be the biggest news outlet, period. Just by, like, I was watching a replay of a stream on X, and it had like 600,000 viewers on a replay.
Right. Yeah, the numbers are crazy at night.
Like,
yeah.
Yeah. It's like ABC and them wish they could get those kind of numbers. And so when he finally does turn that corner and it finally does go, it's going to be a glorious thing to see, because it's going to be, we need that moment of sifting wheat from chaff. And that, and throwing it up off the threshing floor. Like, that's what we need. And I think that's going to happen. And we're going to see real quick who's really about something and who's a shill,
right?
More than we already do, really.
Well, I want to make I want to make a point here. So, InfoWars, my father's baby. InfoWars has been around far longer than I've been around. InfoWars was founded in 1997, I believe. It's been around for almost 30 years, or 30 years at this point, coming up. And no one has fought as hard for anything that I've seen, at least, than my father has fought for his company, his platform, his business, his outlet to the American people. To be honest with you, like, no one's fought harder for something than Alex has fought for InfoWars. And I've seen it all. And, 2 years ago, I made my peace, and I went around the office and I cried a little bit, and I thought it was over, but we have been able to just kind of stave off death week after week after week after week. And I mean, like, I was up there last month and I saw the receiver in there, and I'm just like, wow, like this coma patient, when is it going to die so that we can ascend and become something greater? And I think that's part of the equation. I think that's what it's really going to take for us to ascend and reach the next level and go super. Like, that's what it's going to require. I think that we're still holding on to the vestiges of the old dream instead of building the new one. And that being said, even now, and it's reduced and crippled and wounded state, InfoWars as a platform, for good and bad, you talk about people like Loomer and Patrick Byrne. I think of people like Fuentes, and I think of people, honestly, like myself, that are able to get a platform and go on there and say what we have to say too, right? So I view it from the perspective of, he's tried to keep this thing alive. He's fought so hard for it. I've seen him cry over it. I've seen him gnash his teeth and grind his teeth over it. And I've told him, I just said, like, when are we going to let go? When are we going to let go of this? Because I think it's been done by design to cripple us and keep us from being effective.
150%. And, like obviously, this ain't like a Alex Jones Glaze session, but we got to give our flowers where they're due. Like, when I talk to people are like, "Oh, he got the call." I'm like, dude, he's been calling out Israel since you were in diapers.
Right.
Like, you need to calm down a little bit. Like understand that, there's obviously like an IQ filter, and anybody below a certain threshold can't understand nuanced positions at all.
Mhm.
And that's always going to be the case. But he's blazed the way, and he's done it, and I think he'll continue to. Hopefully, with the new thing, I'm kind of concerned about Bigley. I don't know about that, but then again, I don't know nothing about it anyway. So,
What are you
you
concerned about when it comes to Bigley?
I just don't know anything about him.
Okay,
And
so
obviously, it's none of my business. Because,
ultimately, the reason why Bigley is important and the reason why Bigley is a part of the equation is because payroll is damn near millions a month, equipment costs, all these things.
Right.
And we're leaving that studio at some point. I know we've been able to stave off things, but eventually that place will die. And we have to have a sponsor that ultimately owns the place, because Alex can't own anything. He's got $1 billion judgment over his head. You know what? I've met those guys. I've talked to those guys a lot. I've worked with those guys on products and things. They are true believers. I trust them, and I'm giving you my honest opinion on that right now. They're good folks, and they're not involved in any way of trying to get Alex to do anything at all. They're just trying to make sure, like, they're in business. They're trying to make sure they sell supplements, right? And if they sell supplements, Alex can stay in business. So that's the equation that I see there.
Like you said, like I said, it was never anything like I'd heard anything back. I can't even find them on the internet. I tried Googling them, like just their actual company, and try to find a website. I couldn't find it, but I just didn't know anything about them. And that was the kicker. Like I know InfoWars. I know, you know what I mean? It's like, I know what that is. I know who runs that show.
Right.
But that Bigley is a whole different company. And so, it's, but like you said, Alex can't own anything anymore, because they've essentially, I mean, it's like
they chopped his legs off.
Sentence.
They chopped his legs off. That's what they did. They're proud of it. And I hate those people so much.
You better believe if I hit the lottery and I come into that kind of money, I'm cutting a check. Just gonna let you know now.
God bless.
Let the birds free.
God bless. I mean, yeah, we're living on a prayer, man. And I have hope for a better future. I have hope for really, I've always believed in alternative media. I've always been a huge fan of it ever since I was a little kid. I thought it was really cool that you didn't have to be on a big channel somewhere or be a part of a big media conglomerate. You could just be a guy with a microphone. And if you were popular enough, and if you were good enough at your job, and if you were true enough to your people, you could become as big or bigger than them. And, for all the faults, for all the good or bad, I think that's what we proved. And people point at Rogan as the genesis of podcasting and all that and whatnot. I would say in the political sphere, specifically in the pundit sphere of people, just independent, honest American citizens trying to come out and share their opinions, no one's been more effective than Alex Jones.
Yeah, I think anybody with a couple of brain cells rubbed together understands that.
Yes.
I mean, and literally, when he makes a stance, and like I said, I remember like I watched a lot of my time with InfoWars was before the lawsuit.
Mm-hmm.
And the difference before the lawsuit and after, just in like how he carries himself in the show is just night and day different, because obviously, it's hard doing a show. It's also hard doing a show and fighting off a multi-billion-dollar lawsuit for no reason.
Right.
And it's just not. It's not a way to live.
No, it's not.
So that's why I hate to see InfoWars leave. But he does. I think. I mean, let me ask you: if he leaves, like, can they leave it now? Can they even leave it now with everything going on? If they wanted to.
Well, in what regard?
So, like, if Alex decided, if he wanted to say, "Hey, let's hit the eject, the eject button,"
Mm-hmm.
and abandon shit now before it just shuts down. does he have the ability to do that with all that going on?
Well,
or does he have to stay until it closes through everything?
So it comes down to infrastructure, right? So as old as all our machines are, as old as the equipment is, it is still a machine where you can run 3 massive daily shows out of there. You can run articles out of there. You can run editors out of there. You can run a team out of there. Our other backup studio is, I'm not going to get into details or be too specific because I don't want to reveal too much, but it's a very small location. It's very cramped. It's very hard to do what we do now in there, and damn near impossible. They could make it work potentially if the plug was pulled tomorrow. I have no doubt that they would be able to, but there would be a definite drop in quality, at least for the first couple months. And the new place that's being built out for us right now, the new big place, that's going to be like 6 months plus into getting finished, right? So I understand why we're in the position that we're in today, even though I would like for us to just begin the new Genesis, even though it would be a little bit reduced. I think it would be worth it to do. I totally understand my dad's rational thinking and trying to keep the place alive, coupled with his love for it. It makes a lot of sense to me. But I just, yeah, like it's a real tough situation. Like they've squeezed our head real hard. And when you're living like Alex is someone that if you look at him, you know, he doesn't look like it. He looks real healthy now, honestly, and he doesn't drink compared to how he used to, but he's got a great wound. Like he might as well have like a giant hole blown out of one of his shoulders or something, or one of his legs, because he can't move around or operate properly because he's always having to fight. Yeah. And like I tell people
you can see it.
Yeah.
Everybody can see that. He's tired.
He is tired.
He's tired, and unfortunately the fight doesn't care if you're tired.
That's right.
And the cause has to continue. And he knows that, and there isn't anybody that can pick up that mantle right now and do what he does.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, it's like, hey, it would be the worst thing to do for the legacy would be to give up now.
Yes.
But, you know, hopefully once he's free from the yoke of, from the yoke of all these people, receivers going through everything, all in business, and can't do nothing without nobody, you know, maybe that'll be something to get his fire back in him, which, I mean, he's still got it. Don't get it twisted, but you can tell when the day's been long when he comes on, and then versus when he's having a good day.
Yes.
But like I said, the disrespect of him is just something I don't tolerate.
Yeah, I don't tolerate it
either.
Here's the thing, and here's why I admire Fuentes so much, right? Fuentes isn't one of these Johnny-come-lately types that just showed up and started doing a show 3 or 4 years ago and started criticizing, right? Like, Fuentes is someone that's been around fighting since he was 18, and Alex has been one of the few people, like only people, really, especially during his like media blackout era or iced out era when no one would talk to him, Alex would have him on the show. And I hope in Fuentes, because like, and I'm going to be honest, just for the audience and viewers here, and I've said this many times on the show before, but I'll just reiterate and say it again. Like, I am not my father. I am not capable of working as hard as Alex has worked to build a thing like that. At the end of the day, I embody certain aspects of what he's able to do, but it's mostly because I was raised around him and I learned a lot of those things through osmosis. There are talents and skills when it comes to broadcast, media, ultimately just like being the guy that I know that although I'm decent at, I think spreading truth and information, and I want to do it because it's fun and it's what I always wanted to do, I'm not the guy. And when I look at Fuentes, I look at someone who really could be the guy and who really has become the guy. And I got a lot of hope in him, and I really want to see him succeed and prosper and flourish and really grow into that figure. And I'm not saying a new Alex Jones or a better Alex Jones or an Alex Jones 2.0. I'm just saying we need more people like Alex.
They're fundamentally different in the way that they do things. Like, for example, the thing that like separates Alex is he goes into this big, the big stuff, breaks it down, and then he takes time to talk to the callers. And whether they're smart or they're retards and weirdos, because some of those do call in, he treats them with respect.
True.
And and obviously there, and he doesn't degrade people for not knowing. He's just like, let me get you let me get you forward. Let me push you forward. And it's like that kind of attitude is what I think has made InfoWars so special. Because I mean, I've talked to him once, and I mean, I was like week 3, week 4 red pill, and I get an email from my job, talking about Klaus Schwab and the third industrial age stuff. If you remember all that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I call in, and I don't really know much of what I'm talking about, but I'm talking about my email, and he actually like listens and engages with it, and he isn't, he's actually interested. And it's like a lot of guys, it's like, it'd be really easy to be that big and be like, okay, cool, next,
Right.
But he just never does that. And even with the callers who disagree, and it's just like that's why, like, I put it this way: if he is controlled opposition, we're screwed anyways. But in as much as that I know, or I can tell as an outsider, of course, I don't think I think he's the real deal, and I think you could see that by how he treats people.
I agree. His opinion.
You know,
I'll tell you one thing. His opinions are his own, even if I don't agree with some of them. That's the truth about my dad. I know that to be a fact over the course of my life. Like, his opinions are his own. He believes what he believes, and he's not influenced by anything other than his worldview and the information. And hey, maybe I don't agree with his worldview 100%, but you know what? Like, he is on a mission to try to tell the truth, and I do believe this. Now, some people believe that he's Bill Hicks, and I see that in the chat right now and all this, and I just man.
They don't even look alike, guys. Like, rub those brain cells together, get a spark going.
Well, I mean, you can look at clips of Alex in his early 20s, and he kind of looks like me. Well, like I just it blows my mind.
Yeah.
But just in closing, New Groiper, like how do you want to end this? Got another point you want to make, or just what do you have to say?
I mean, hey man, I'm here for the ride. Like I said, great show. You guys are improving. Tim, if you're hearing this, you're getting better. I'm going to turn you into a groiper, so prepare yourself accordingly. But in all seriousness, like, keep doing your thing, man.
I appreciate it.
As long as you'll continue to grow, as long as you don't try to be somebody you're not,
right?
You'll continue to thrive, and just don't chill. And it's pretty easy, and hopefully, obviously, that there's a lot of people out there supporting both you and your dad, and all the independent media guys. And ultimately, I think truth wins.
Yeah,
I think it hurts and it takes time, but I think the truth wins, because I mean, evil doesn't triumph in the end. And so if we're doing this with the right mindset and with good intentions, and we're trying to do what is right, I think that matters. And so you just keep plowing the field, man.
I agree.
Plowing.
We're gonna keep
more.
trying. We're gonna keep getting better. We're gonna keep making the show better. And like, I'm coming back today. Like, I've been real sick and real messed up basically for the past week. I haven't really eaten anything. Today was the first day I actually had 2 meals in like 5 days, and I'm enjoying having a little bit of the energy back. And, I'm probably, after we get off the phone, I'm probably going to try to go through a few more of the slides I have. I may try to stretch this live out to 4 hours. I wanted to get into more information, but on a day like today, where I'm feeling a little bit off, it really warms my heart that we have callers like you and the other callers. And like, there are people with really phenomenal, like, just honestly good, solid brains and good takes that are out there, and they have the information. And I think shows like this are important. I think shows like InfoWars are important, because when those people get to express their views and opinions, like yourself and others, it shows the listening public that, hey, like, all is not lost. We agree on a lot more than we disagree on. It really is that corrupt elite ruling class that wants to keep us divided, keep us separated. And we can all agree on one thing: things aren't getting better for us, man. And that's all we voted for. And that's all we want, is we just want a future for ourselves and our families. We want to be able to worship God in peace. You want to be able to go to the grocery store in peace. Hell, you want to go to the 7-Eleven in peace, like, whatever. At the end of the day, like, that's what I believe in. That's what I want. And I just thank you for being solid, New Groiper. And you're a phenomenal caller. And I really always appreciate the chance to interview you, and love having you on.
Hey man, it's always fun, dude. I'll catch you on the next show.
Indeed. I'll be live for a little bit longer. I am going to try to get through a couple of these topics. Thank you for joining us tonight. Seriously, man. God bless.
Hey, no problem. Thanks. Have a good one, man.
Thank you. Wow. New Groiper, ladies and gentlemen. What a phenomenal dude. Nimrod Pod, also a phenomenal dude. Owl Killer, also a phenomenal dude. Who is that other guy? I got his call screen in here. Jefferson in Virginia, also a phenomenal dude. I mean, this is why I'm happy to do this show. This is why I'm proud to do this show, because if I'm doing this show and I'm talking about these topics and I'm going through the information, I'm able to attract the intellectual caliber of people like this, and it means that we're doing something right here on the Gray Area. And like, I wish that Tim was here with me tonight, because we would have had an even more phenomenal discussion, prepared segment probably. And I'm going to try to go through some of these slides that I have on a couple of topics that I really wanted to go over. But I just want to say thank you again to the audience and anyone that's listening, anyone that's here right now. Without you, the show is not possible. Like, without you, I'm just a guy talking into the void, looking into a camera. So if you do me the honor of choosing to listen to me, or choosing to hear what I have to say, or just even choosing to check me out, or choosing to check the show out, choosing to check us out at the Gray Area, it really is something that I cannot put in words. I cannot describe how grateful I am. And I thank you for being here with us tonight. And, you know, I get called the Black Pillar. I get called negative. I get called all these names, and I hear it, I take it in, and I try to find things to be positive about. And the one thing I have found my ability to be positive about is the people in the community, is the people that are politically awake and aware. And when you talk to people, they're pretty much on the same page. They may disagree on an issue here, an issue there, but when it comes down to brass tacks, we all agree the system isn't working for anybody. And you know what? Like, that's not what we voted for. That's not what America represents. That's not what we want. So if we're able to come together on that basic thesis of things not being how we want them to be, and us wanting a change, and us wanting the truth to come out about our government and about our society, I think that we can win. And none of us are perfect. None of us are perfect people. No person you watch is a perfect person. We're all human beings. But at the end of the day, if you don't want mass death, if you don't want pedophilia, if you don't want drugs, if you don't want crime, if you don't want the decay of the first world, if you don't want what your ancestors fought for to be washed away, then welcome to the Gray Area. Welcome to Realpolitik. Welcome to America First. Like, that's what we represent. And people may agree and disagree on various different topics, but you know what? We want a better future for America. And when we say we want a better future for America, we're not just saying that so we can get in office and then get in with the power structure and then completely betray everything we stood for. We're saying it because we believe it. And ultimately, that's what matters, right? That's what matters to me. And I know that's what matters to you, the American people. And ultimately, that's what I support as a person. And, you know, I'm a terrible Christian. I really am. I am the worst of all sinners. I do suck in that regard. But we all need to get right with God. We need to get right with Jesus Christ. We need to pray about this stuff and pray and hope that we can be given the strength to become better, stronger people that are able to live in this kind of ridiculously hostile and toxic climate that we're in. Because, you know, it's not just the chemicals and the drugs and the food and water. It's not just the war and the death. It's not just the crime. It's not just the economy. It's a metaphysical sickness that has descended upon this country, primarily, I believe, because we've killed 60 to 70 million unborn people. And, you know, when you think about stuff like that, and you think about how much the standard of living has dropped to the point to where people can't even have children, you think about our future. Our future is not a set of policies or even a set of ideals. The future is the children. And when we live in a world where we don't protect the children and don't produce a future where the children can thrive, nothing else matters. And the message that I got tonight from the callers about, well, what do we do to fix this? What's the solution? At the end of the day, like, that's what we're trying to figure out. I don't have a definitive answer for you. I can't give you something off the top of my head. I really can't. But we can keep having these conversations over and over and over again, and we can build on the collective consciousness of just wanting that, and just wanting that is powerful. But realizing that we're at a point where the big win isn't just going to come if we lay around and wait for it to happen or believe in our overlords to let it happen. Like, the big win is us realizing we got to do the work ourselves. And I've got 1,000,000% work to do, and I know a lot of you guys do too, and I'm trying to be a better person. You know, I fail a lot. I fail every day, but I'm trying to do my best here, and I really I am thankful to everyone that tunes in, and I am eternally grateful to you. I'm not just trying to repeat myself over and over again. I love you, and I thank you for being here with me tonight. And to harp on Venezuela to start, and then I was going to get into Ukraine, I was going to get into Pam Bondi, and I was going to get into all these things. I am anti-death. I am pro-life, not just in the sense of being anti-abortion. I am anti-death in general. And whatever you want to call it, sin, karma, whatever, we have built up such a toll as a nation upon ourselves that a reckoning is coming, and a reckoning will happen, and it is one that we deserve. And at the end of the day, the message that the faux right pushes now, the message that the GOP establishment pushes, is that we've won, that we're the victors, that we're successful, and that everything is given to us by default, when in fact that's just an excuse they use to rob us even further. And I'm not willing to toe that line. And when I go on InfoWars, I'm not willing to toe that line. I mean, me and Tim did a whole hour and a half on InfoWars talking about all this stuff, and talking about the debt, and talking about things not getting better, and calling out the people in power. And, you know, if that wasn't a free platform, we wouldn't have the ability to do that. And, you know, there are people in the audience, or viewers and listeners out there today, I know, that are highly critical of my father, and may even don't like him or hate him or whatever. And you know what? I understand your position. I get it. I would say to give the man a chance, and to just realize what his platform has done, and specifically during the COVID time, all the good work that we did. And sadly, to get back to that point, you know, I think I'll finish up on that, or at least dovetail into that. You know, we talk about Epstein, we talk about the wars, we talk about financial corruption, we talk about the establishment GOP. Trump has backed the vaccines to the hilt. Trump has backed the poison shot to the hilt. It's still being given to people, folks. And at the end of the day, we can talk about all these things being bad and whatnot, and they're all kind of in the realm of politics. They're poisoning people, and they're killing them left and right. And what are you supposed to do about it? Nothing. What are you supposed to do about it? Applaud Trump for murder, which is what he's doing. I'm not talking about Venezuela. I'm not talking about the economy. I'm not talking about any of that. I'm talking about the clot shot that people are taking right now. And you know, for criticism of Elon Musk, I don't trust him, whatever. At least we can talk about stuff like this on X. And I remember a world even just a couple years ago where that wasn't seen as anything that could be possible. So I do think, even if it's done for, you know, even if it's done with bad intentions, maybe something good can come out of it. I do really support Elon in the fact that he has at least somewhat liberated Twitter into being a place where we can speak about these topics truly from the heart and from our real perspective. So I'm going to go ahead and try to read some comments. I know all the comments don't load. I use StreamYard, so I only see a few. So I know there are a lot of y'all on the Twitter specifically that I can't see, but I'm going to go ahead and read a few of these. From Michael: you are doing a great job, Rex. You just try to be real. That is all a real man can do. Respect. Thank you. That's high praise. Not sure if I deserve it. Good conversations, Rex and callers. Down to earth, real talk about this collapsing empire. I mean, like, that's what we talk about on the show, man. People call it black pill. I call it realism. And like, I'm not Tim Pool trying to sell you a skateboard and telling you everything's fine. I am selling supplements. I'm telling you things are terrible, but at least that's true.
Yeah.
At least that's true, right? So thank you. Love you too, Hicks Jr. Oh, all right. Yeah, I am Bill Hicks, actually. Yeah. I want to save Italy, where I'm from too. I'm so sorry to people in Europe that have to deal with the oppression, because things are bad here. I pray for y'all. And, you know, I'll say a prayer tonight for you guys for what it's worth. Well said, fellows. Get well. Contemplate the needed recalibration. Christ is king. Good discussion. It's not a black pill. It's a fact pill. I agree with that. Thank you. The Bill Hicks conflation is just silly flat eartherism. Well, I mean, like, people actually believe this shit, and it just blows my mind, because I know people that knew my dad when he was in diapers. So I just, like, if that's the hill you want to die on, that's the hill you want to die on. That's like Black Hebrew Israelite or flat earth stuff. I do agree with that. Groypers are evil. I don't agree with that. All right. Be nice in here. Bigley fired Chase Geyser. I think that may be true. I'm not sure about that. Fuentes isn't gay. They're having a debate if Fuentes is gay or not up here. Yeah.
He's a secret third thing.
Tim Dillon is the man. Yeah, I mean, here, look, and I'll make this point right now. Like, I have been overjoyed to see really the legitimacy of Tim Dillon, the credibility of Tim Dillon. To me, it's exploded a millionfold in my mind. I mean, I've been watching him since the pandemic, and I was just a huge fan of him because he's a super funny guy, right? And the shows he's been putting out after interviewing JD Vance, after getting the access to these people, the realism that he's been showing, calling them out on their bullshit and their lies, like, I mean, damn, that's a real American. Like him or not, and criticize his lifestyle choices or whatever. I mean, he's calling out the system. And I highly encourage everyone to watch his last broadcast. Phenomenal, phenomenal, phenomenal. No one that's bought off or trying to get access in any way would ever say any of the things that he says and puts out. And I'm a huge fan and supporter of him. And I encourage everyone to support Tim Dillon. I really do. Fuentes can be president in 2036. So another decade is correct, Rex. And Bill Hicks. Ooh, I should actually. All right. The call-in service costs money, so I have to end it now. I just spent like 30 cents. Kudos, Rex. May start listening to politics again. You feel legit. Thank you. That's high praise. I'm just a guy talking, man. Just been blackpilled on everything for months. Well, I mean, look, it's called being a realist, and don't let them discourage you from being a realist and looking at the situation. It's like if your house is on fire and then you show up to your house and it's burning down and the fire department shows up and they go, hey, don't be blackpilled. All right. This is a bad situation, but don't be blackpilled about it. You still have a house and you're like, it's literally burnt down to ashes. There's nothing left. How do you feel? You're a young American. You've lived in this society. What do you feel that? What's the youth's collective consciousness? And talking to the mic, and you can move the mic arm.
Yeah. The youth's collective consciousness on what?
Just like, are we headed somewhere positive or negative? Is life getting better for people?
No, I think a lot of people are worried about where things are going on a variety of subjects. You know, there's like international affairs, domestic things, grocery prices going up, gas prices going up. You know, just like increasing like all this AI and like social media stuff too. It's like all getting stronger.
Right. And they tell you, hey, there'll be a UBI, there'll be a future for you. Everyone will get paid somehow. Why would you do that? You should just there should just be less people and the robots can do the job. And I know that's kind of like a weird Terminator future to describe to people, but at the end of the day, like, you know, I made the point many, many times, like, why are you mad at Jose in the field when eventually it's going to be the Optimus robot in the field? And there won't even be a Jose anymore. There won't be a Deshaun anymore. There won't be a Kyle anymore. Everyone will be dead. It'll just be the robot and the billionaire.
What if they name the robot?
Nice touch. Nice touch. And like this is the thing, and especially just about race in general, and people have different views on this, wildly different views. We have to be pro-human or we're all going to die. And this is very clear. And the racial dialectic is used to get people to fight in order so they don't get to come together. When in reality, people have far more in common than they do apart. And I'm speaking about American people, right? I'm not speaking about a foreign population being imported in here. I'm talking about the people that are here, that have history here. Everyone here has more in common than we do in difference. And they know that, and they're afraid of that, and they want to replace us via the robot and via a foreign population that isn't used to the rights and circumstances that we've grown up accustomed to. That is the goal. And like that's what we rage against. And getting back to what the person said about it not being black-pilled, it being fact-pilled. I mean, the more you look into the information, the more you want change, right? And that's the problem. They don't want people to be informed. They don't want people to actually want change. They pick the culture war issues. They go, oh, like own the lib or like the evil MAGA, like both sides. It's not actually talking about, hey, the system's collapsed. It's just these things these scraps that make people fight over.
Well, it's a distraction.
Yes.
Right. It deviates from like messages in the media deviate from the issues that people are like primarily concerned with.
100%. I 100% agree with that. Kyle Seraphin, how do you call in? We ended the call in portion of the show. Apologies for that. I was not named after Rex 84. I was not. I was named after Tyrannosaurus Rex, the dinosaur. profitability in the future must be restricted to analog human endeavor and human effort. Yes, like I'm a Luddite to a certain perspective. I'm against automation to a certain perspective. People need to work. People need to have jobs. You can't just replace everything. You can't do it. You can't just give everyone UBI and tell them to fuck off. That's how people. That's how we don't have human civilization anymore, in my opinion. And like the technocrats, they believe this. They say we're not going to be able to beat AI. We have to merge with AI. This is what all these top people say. It's like it's a transhumanist cult.
Yeah, it's complex. Like, because with the AI, there's the thing that people talk about where jobs are being replaced, right? But I think it goes even beyond that, where it's like people's day-to-day lives. They're
Right.
outsourcing a lot of their thinking to AI. They're like using AI to just like talk about stuff they would normally be using like their critical thinking skills
Right.
to analyze.
And my dad's got a great saying. He's like, hey, like breathing is hard. Just use a respirator. Right. Like, and sadly, I think we will get to that point eventually. They have done everything they can to try to destroy Christianity because Christ is the only way. I wasn't raised religious, but I know a godless society falls apart. Amen. Very true. Rex, you are Tim Dillon. You wear a fat suit and shades and do a Boston accent. Just kidding about that one, but your dad is Bill. At least the Bill Hicks people can have fun, right? At least the Bill Hicks people can have fun. We love that. We love our Bill Hicks people. Rex, can we trust Joe Rogan? I don't understand why he can't have Alex on JR anymore, who's gatekeeping. I thought the censorship era was over. I think Rogan's completely compromised. I mean, you look at he's a laundry for the billionaire tech people. That's all that goes on the show anymore. And you know, like the original JRE 9/11 had 33 million views. Why wouldn't you want to have that guy on again? Right? Why wouldn't you want to have that guy on again? And then you got Rogan coming out and saying, well, if Jesus comes back, it'll probably be a computer and all this stuff. Well, where'd you get that from, Rogan? You smoke pot and come up with that? I smoked plenty of pot. I didn't come up with that theory. Like some tech overlord told you that and you thought it was a cool idea to repeat, right? So, I mean, I'm Rogan used to do a phenomenal show. I haven't watched a full JRE besides like an interview with someone that's actually interesting in years and years and years, right? But I just, it's disappointing. It's very disappointing, in my opinion. But you know what? I'm going to go back to my stories because I got quite a few things that I did want to discuss with y'all tonight. And instead of getting into the Ukrainian conscription footage, which I had a lot of, I want to cover the EU situation. We had someone in here that said they were from Italy. Let's talk about a little bit of this. And this is not the main story. This just ties into it. It's just real clean because Twitter auto generates the news stories sometimes. And I'll just lead off with this. Elon Musk calls for EU abolition after a 120 million pound X fine. The penalty came under the Digital Services Act for issues like deceptive blue check marks, unclear ad data, and limited researcher access. That's complete bullshit. It's all about the censorship. And that's just their lawyer language. Isn't it cute? And that's another thing. We'll touch on that really quick. The culture of the AI, or not AI, the culture of the HR, right? The HR language that these politicians speak, right? It's like they go to school to learn this way of confusing the public, right? And misrepresenting their actual policy. We just want to make that point really quick. Musk labeled the EU bureaucracy overreach, not true democracy, and endorsed a post comparing it to the Fourth Reich. Voices split, with supporters praising his push for sovereignty on migration and speech, while critics linked his words to Russian interests and warned of weakening Europe's unity. Who had the idea of forming the EU? Do you know? No. Adolf Hitler. Adolf Hitler wanted to install King Edward of England as the de facto ruler of like a European coalition, which would later become the EU. And shortly after World War II, this is what they enacted and put in power. So it is in fact a Fourth Reich. It is in fact a Fourth Reich. EU dictator, she's unelected, Ursula von der Leyen equates free speech to a virus and censorship to its vaccine at the Copenhagen Democracy Summit, no less. Europe's speech is dead. 2025, 120 million fine for deceptive blue ticks and ad opacity. 170 German home raids for hate posts. 170 home raids for hate posts. So you post something, they'll come get you. UK averaging 12K arrests per year for tweets.
That's ridiculous.
Can you believe that? Are you aware of that? No. Did you know about that?
I mean, I knew about like the UK being stricter with online presence stuff and like using police for that, but I did not know the number was 12,000 arrests per year. That's ridiculous.
France indicts Telegram founder Durov over user content. Swiss polls push full X ban as threat to democracy. Brussels owns your thoughts. Let's watch this clip here.
And finally, it takes resilience. As technology evolves, we need to build up societal immunity around information manipulation. Because research has shown that pre-bunking is much more successful than debunking. Pre-bunking is basically the opposite of debunking. In short, prevention is preferable to cure. Perhaps if you think of information manipulation as a virus, instead of treating an infection once it has taken hold, that is debunking. It is much better to vaccinate so that the body is inoculated. Pre-bunking is the same approach. Because disinformation relies on people passing it on to others. It is essential that people know what malign information's influence is and what the techniques are that are behind it. And as the knowledge goes up, our chances of being influenced goes down. And that builds up a society resilience that we will need.
No one more evil than that lady. What's pre-bunking? Oh, you mean censorship, right? You mean deciding what people can and cannot say. You know, who knows best? The government knows best. When has that ever been true in history? Now, this woman, no one voted for this woman, Will. No one voted for her. She's the unelected head of the EU Commission. She used to be the head of Germany's defense minister. So now she's in charge and she gets to decide who speaks and who doesn't speak. And I want to go to this clip because it's key. EU President Ursula von der Leyen says the EU protects freedom of speech. She told a crowd protesting against her they should feel lucky they're in the EU where they can protest. At the very moment, a man was arrested for protesting. Watch this clip right here.
Thank you very much for receiving me. And first of all, to those who scream and yell here so loud, they can be happy that they are in a free country like Finland, where the free speech is
So you got someone protesting?
where they have not
And then here come
any
the police.
restrictions. If they would be in Moscow, they would be in jail.
And she's
in
literally,
2
I know you
minutes.
don't have
This
audio.
is
She's
why we
literally,
have democracy. We can
but see, these are the noble people. These are the arbiters of who decides what's right or wrong. German court gives woman harsher punishment than convicted rapist for calling him disgraceful pig. A woman was found guilty of defaming the man who was convicted for gang raping a 15-year-old in Hamburg in 2020. And this is what one of the European MPs says. A message to piggy land, referring to us. The U.S. is piggy land. There is no censorship in Europe, and everyone has to follow our rules. Trump fights the free press, suing newspapers and TV stations, so leave us alone. Europe it's literally 1984. And like, if you look at it, and I showed you some of the clips of Ukrainian conscription, you never seen that before, right? Them tossing people in the vans and driving them away. I'll go to that here shortly. I mean, and this is why we do this show. Once you become aware of these gross human rights abuses, I mean, why are we bombing boats in Venezuela? Why aren't we exporting freedom and democracy to Europe if they're arresting their own citizens for speaking, right? And during COVID, if you look at places like the UK and Australia, you post you're going to go to a protest, I mean, they show up to your house, they take you to jail. Well, that's just true. That's how we ended up where we are today. Rumors swirling that the EU Commission will fine X hundreds of millions of dollars for not engaging in censorship. The EU should be supporting free speech, not attacking American companies over garbage. Good tweet from JD Vance, the VP. I agree with that. We need to see more of that. Now, here's a classic, and everyone's seen this clip a million times. I'll play it again. And it's subtitled, so you'll be able to pick it up. Will, I want your opinion on this.
Say that you did not want your money going to immigrants who, quote, rape our kids and get priority, end quote. This offence is so serious that an immediate custodial sentence is unavoidable. Would you stand, please? The sentence that I pass has been reduced by 1/3 to reflect your guilty plea. The sentence is one of 20 months imprisonment. Say that you did not.
2 years in jail for saying you don't want immigrants, you don't want to pay for immigrants to rape. I mean, is that an illegal thing to say? Is that a criminal threat?
No, it's not the same thing as a criminal threat. And like this example, it's like these legalists are normalizing this type of punishment for these behaviors.
Right.
Right.
And they act like it. In fact, they act like it's the normal thing to do. Right. And then you got this ridiculous fucking faggot, and I'll just call him that because we're in America and I can call him that. You got this censorious, evil, monstrous, demon, authoritarian 1984 creature who's literally sending someone to jail just because he tweeted something about his own country, an opinion he had about his own nation. You got this censorious monster who sends him to jail for nearly 2 years. And the bad thing is the mean language. Like if I was over in the UK and I called him that, I'm sure I'd go to jail, you know? But thank God we're in America, at least for now, right? And, you know, all these people in the EU, they post about the Ukrainians and the Ukrainian struggle, the Ukrainian fight, and how we must back them to the hilt and must give them all the weapons, and the evil Russians are coming to take over all of Europe, and that's why the Ukrainians must be supported. Look at this video.
Ви підараси, блядь! Ви чули? Зараз я тобі їбало не іди ти, йому, блядь! Ужасик, що ти робиш? Зараз буде хлопець, ти підривай! Блядь, я не хочу! Їбати!
Що? Попробуй.
Hey, they're running out of soldiers. They got to continue the war, right? Isn't that moral and good? See, this is what our country supports when we give them money. That's a war crime. That's a war crime. I think we can all agree on that. See, if you draft dodge, they can send you to jail legally. They can send you to jail, and that's what, like Muhammad Ali, like conscientious objector, right? At the end of the day. But this is not legal. In any theater in any world since World War II, it's not been legal to treat people like this. But what do? I've got more. See, they got people on the street, man. They got people on the street. This is an English bill. A respect order may be for the purpose of preventing the respondent from engaging in antisocial behavior. A, prohibit the respondent from doing anything described in the order. B, require the respondent to do anything described in the order. So just government can make you do whatever you want and can stop you from doing whatever they want. You think that's freedom?
No.
Think that should be our ally?
No.
Like, it's disgraceful, ladies and gentlemen. And these are the people that we support. We call the Russians evil, and then we support the EU when they do this stuff.
Nej, men alltså min son har blivit rånad 3 gånger. 2 gånger utav somalier och 1 gång ifrån araber. Och han är 19 år och han är ju mer eller mindre märkt för livet. Han vågar inte gå ut själv. En annan gick ut i Göteborg och när man var i den åldern var ju inga problem. Idag är det ju fruktansvärt. Hade jag haft en dotter hade förmodligen gått med en laddad hagelbössa och följt efter henne ungefär 10 meter bakom. Det är ju helt absurt. Så ja, nej, det är, alltså, den här invandringen är totalt hänsynslös mot det svenska folket.
He's guilty of a hate crime for saying that, you see? You see that speech right there, how different is that from the British speech that got that guy 20 months, right? And that's just a father talking about his children that he's worried about. And see, the reason why we bring all this up is because we present the we present the possible future that may happen in America if we're not aware of our rights and how valuable they are. And I think a lot of Americans, particularly young Americans, we take this stuff for granted and we don't actually look across the world. And when we look across the world, we point at a place like Russia or China or Venezuela or something. And we say, they're authoritarian. They're dictators because they're mean openly, whatever, because they're openly oppressive. But then these places that couch themselves in the image of being liberty, democracy, wrap yourself in the pride flag, show that you're good, XYZ. These are the people that are the most monstrous, the most censorious. And there's no good guys on the planet. There's no good guys on the planet. And if anyone tries to sell you a Star Wars story of a rebel alliance fighting an evil empire, it doesn't exist. It's all evil empire, and it's all evil empire fighting each other all the time. Well, I've pontificated enough. This has been a long enough live stream. Sorry, the quality wasn't better. My head's still a little jumbled. Today's the first day I've eaten 2 full meals. I've been pretty sick through the past week. A lot of us have gotten the norovirus going around. It's pretty bad here in Austin. And I thank you for joining us here tonight. Will, what is your Twitter?
Big Will Dollar Bill. I'm also on Instagram. It's the same handle, Big Will Dollar Bill.
Follow him. Be good for DMing the ladies. You got a big follower count.
Yeah, be nice to white chocolate.
Be nice to white chocolate. Thank you all for joining us tonight. Love you very much and appreciate